Welcome to Wife Cheating Story. I hope you have an enjoyable and relaxing time listening. Let's get started.
She thought it was the perfect night, kids away, husband working late. But when Bob came home early, the illusion shattered. Standing at the bedroom door, his eyes filled with tears, he whispered, "How could you?" before storming out into the night. Richard lay unconscious on the floor from a single punch. Jennifer froze, her heart pounding as she scrambled to wake her lover, terrified of what would happen next. Would Bob ever come back? Could she explain the unexplainable? In that fleeting moment, her carefully hidden affair turned into a nightmare, unraveling everything she thought she controlled. Prologue. The husband. I am dreaming. I know I am dreaming because I feel like I'm floating in and out of different moments, between light and dark. I am running. I am a runner. I always run. I don't know where I'm going, only that I need to get away. I can't even remember what I'm escaping from, just that I have to keep going until I reach a place where I won't have to think about it again. I have been running for what feels like hours, but it is strange because the sun is shining brightly above me. This doesn't feel right. I usually run early in the morning or in the evening when the sun is lower in the sky. It's hot under this midday sun, and I slowly realize how thirsty I am and how much my arms, legs, and feet hurt. My ribs ache too, making it hard to breathe. Now my shoulders hurt, and I feel so tense. I look around in my dream at the odd trees and light woods. I realize I am completely lost, which only makes me feel more alone. I can feel my strength fading, so I stop in this open area. I'm breathing hard and every part of me is complaining. My arms and legs shake and everything begins to blur. I am on a worn path, and in front of me stands a blurry figure, the first person I have seen in what feels like ages. It looks like a woman, maybe a young girl. I don't want to talk to anyone right now, so I step off the path for a moment and lean against a tree. My legs wobble. Everything hurts except, oddly, my ribs and head don't hurt as much now. I feel that if I stop for too long, I might seize up, so I get back on the path. Good, the girl is gone. I run, remembering that running helps me drown out my thoughts. Now I am on the ground. I lay there, unable to move, even if I wanted to. My ribs hurt and my head feels heavy. My lips are dry and I can taste something strange. Along with my tiredness, I feel a deep sadness, but I can't remember why. I know who I am, of course. I'm Tommy Barlow, born in 1958 in Nottingham to Anne and Alan Barlow, recently married to my childhood sweetheart Sally. Yes, sweet Sally, I know I am an engineer. I work with machines. Lying here in the forest, I can smell the oil from my work, but everything else feels unclear. I have this strong wish to let things go. I want to forget. It's hard with sharp images stuck in my mind. I want to yell, but it hurts too much to take a deep breath. Even with my eyes closed, the comforting darkness fades, and those images come back, clear in my mind, making me uneasy, accompanied by a haunting sound that fills my head. I think I want to escape this pain. No, I don't just think that. I know I want to get away. My life and any chance of a meaningful existence feels over. It seems finished, as if I never lived at all. I wish I had never existed. Then I wouldn't hurt so deeply. If only the pain I feel could erase those unbearable memories. Where is the button to erase everything when you need it? Suddenly I cannot breathe, as if I'm drowning in my own sadness. I feel myself going under, and I wave my arms and legs in a frantic attempt to reach the surface for one last breath. Just one moment of relief before everything comes crashing down. That's all I want, nothing more. But then, against my better judgment, my lungs insist on taking another breath, mostly air, but also bringing in some distressing feelings. Perhaps I don't really want to escape. Maybe there is still hope for me. But how can there be hope when I feel certain that all hope is gone? I tell myself this instinct to breathe is simply my body wanting to survive. I shake my head and use that last breath to shout out, "No!" My face feels wet, and I cough and sputter. I open my eyes to see a bright white sky with a dark shape blocking the sun. I feel so tired, with so little energy, that I struggle to understand what I'm seeing, but I try with all my strength, hoping these new bright sights can cover up the painful images in my mind. When I close my eyes again, the image stays dark. As seconds pass, I brace for the returning nightmare, but thankfully, the darkness continues. Slowly, a face appears against the bright sky. It's the only thing I can focus on. Now I can start to relax, the face and sky staying in my view, thankfully free of distressing memories or sounds. Maybe I have finally found peace, and those haunting images were just a fleeting moment. I am at peace at last. I just can't remember if I deserve this calm, but I think I can accept it if this is what living feels like. Eternity doesn't seem to last as long for my spirit as I thought it would when I was alive. I am surprised when my senses start to wake up again. First, I hear sounds. Quiet whispers, one voice, then another. Soft murmurs, echoing all around, but I can't make out the words. Next, I feel sensations tingling, warm spots and coolness on my skin. It grows uncomfortable, but also feels like I'm floating. That light feeling is mixed with pressure on my face, chest, arms, and legs. I had felt warm in the forest, but now I find a gentle warmth in this new place. Interestingly, my lower legs and feet feel the warmest and don't have that heavy sensation. My head feels cooler. Then I notice scents returning to my nose. Clean and fresh scents fill the air, mixed with sharp floral aromas, putting aside the earthy smells I remember from before. Those earthy smells seem to have vanished like morning fog. I try to remember what that earthy smell was linked to, but it slips my mind. All that remains is what I can sense now. This is the only smell I truly recognize, and I feel a wave of happiness as it replaces the old one. I notice a bad taste in my mouth, like I haven't brushed my teeth in days. It's a sour feeling that makes my face scrunch up. I can feel my nose wrinkling as well. Then I hear some words from two people in the room, one man and one woman. I catch words like stroke, shock, heart. Are they talking about me? My face changes again as I sneeze. Chapter 1. Awakening. The wife. People say choices can change everything. My first choice was a big mistake, a prank that went wrong in ways I never expected. I thought it would be a one-time thing, but 10 years later, I found myself making that choice again. The reasons were so different, yet they all come down to the same thing: deception and risky decisions lead to consequences. Disregard can bring about unexpected results. It first happened more than 10 years ago when the four of us, without the children, were on vacation together. We were very close then, neighbors, friends, and best friends. There was Bob, my husband, Emma, my neighbor and best friend, and her husband Richard, Bob's best buddy. Richard and I paused almost as soon as we began what we were doing. He finished quickly, and I remember feeling uneasy when the weight of our actions hit me, even through the haze of the moment. I never thought I would be unfaithful to Bob when we married 9 years ago and had our 3 beautiful children. I truly believed I wouldn't. But crossing that line makes it easier to repeat, and the guilt fades with time until it no longer troubles you. You think you won't get caught until the truth comes out. A couple of years ago, Richard's situation changed. He mentioned it briefly in one of our private talks several months back. My situation changed too, but what he proposed didn't interest me. Still, he kept bringing it up, and I listened, eventually giving in. We started seeing each other again over the past few months, thinking it would help us both and that no one would get hurt. We didn't want to cause pain for anyone. I loved Bob. He cared for Emma. I didn't have romantic feelings for Richard, and he didn't for me. So why disrupt our lives? We thought we could keep this our little secret forever. What did we really know? How did I know we would lose track of time? Well, I wouldn't say it was that simple. Bob came home very early, which surprised Rich and me because we were still asleep. Our alarm was set for at least another hour. Emma was at her sick mother's house, where she had been 3 nights each week for the last 6 months. My 3 kids were away camping for the weekend. While I enjoy camping in the summer, late October in Derbyshire didn't make much sense. I have to blame their father for that. The kids love being outdoors. They take after him. If the schedules had been different, he would have been with them. Meanwhile, Bob was at work, just finishing a cycle of 6 nights on and 6 off, and preparing to start daytime shifts next Saturday. This was Rich's only chance to stay with me all night, instead of me sneaking over to his place for short visits when Emma was gone. Our first real night together should have been special. Bob was not supposed to come home until late morning after his morning run, but there he was at 5:15, standing at our bedroom door, clearly upset. Bob spoke to Rich, but I couldn't see what was happening because I hadn't put in my contact lenses yet. I felt nervous, unsure of how things would go. Bob looked at me for a moment, then hurried down the stairs and out the front door. I should have gone after him. I should have followed Bob, my husband of almost 20 years, to bring him back and explain what I could not understand myself. Instead, I put on my robe and tried to wake Rich. I don't think I cared if he was hurt. I didn't have time to think straight. I just wanted him out of my bedroom before Bob returned. I wanted Bob, my Bob, to come back and forgive me. I would have done anything for that forgiveness, anything to make things right with him, the man I loved most in the world. But my Bob never came back. When I sneezed, it started a series of events. The two people nearby stopped talking and turned to me. They looked more panicked than I felt. They introduced themselves as Ben, a nurse, and Helen, a visitor. Helen took my hand. It felt warm and comforting while Ben explained what was happening to me. I couldn't see anything because my eyes were covered. Apparently, I was badly sunburned and had something called photokeratitis. Ben tried to explain further, but I was still confused. He told me my eyes would need to stay covered for a few more days, except during dressing changes to let them rest and heal. My face was swollen and bruised, but I should get better in a week or two, likely with little or no scars. Ben told me they needed to find out who I was. I was found wearing sneakers, socks, a t-shirt, and shorts, but had no ID on me, not even a house key. I only had a plain wristwatch and a wedding ring. All they needed from me was my name. That didn't seem like a lot to ask, did it? What was my name? What was my name? I thought I remembered it just now. It felt so close. The man had been breathing on his own for a few hours and was sometimes shifting in his sleep. His eyes were covered to keep him safe when he woke up, since Helen had come in that morning to take over for her mother, Sharon, who had been watching over him since midnight. Helen thought she had found someone who was not awake when she discovered him the previous Sunday afternoon. She often ran through the open fields in the late afternoon after her college work during the week and in the mornings on weekends. But yesterday it was unusually warm for late September. Being Sunday, there would likely be more families out, so she decided to take a shortcut through the woods to get home sooner for a refreshing shower before dinner. It turned out she didn't make it home until late evening and didn't eat at all. Helen Bister saw him lying still on his back in the bright sunlight. She noticed something ahead as she followed a narrow path that looked like a shortcut. At first, she wasn't sure what it was. She slowed down, feeling that something was off. She thought about taking a different route, but felt drawn to carefully approach the figure while looking for any signs of trouble. She wasn't usually anxious, but her mother had always warned her about being alone in risky places, so she thought it best to be cautious. Helen took out her phone, ready to call for help, but realized there was no signal, which made her more careful. As she got closer, she became more convinced that he was not alive. He showed all the signs she had expected. It looked like he had been hurt, with dried blood on his head, a lot on his arm, and on the grass around him. She gently touched his forehead. His skin was warm, suggesting he had been in the sun for too long. She wondered if this warmth meant he was still alive or if he had just passed away. Helen gently shook his shoulder, first softly and then a bit harder, but he didn't respond. He seemed to be completely still. He looked like a runner dressed in old but comfy shoes. He was older, likely retired, with gray hair and a thin face that surprisingly showed a calm look, as if he was ready for a new part of his journey. Helen had a little water left in her bottle, so she splashed some on his face. A bit got into his nose, causing him to move his arms and cough, trying to catch his breath. Yet, he didn't wake up fully. Helen quickly took out her phone and hurried down the path towards the houses, hoping for a better signal. When she finally had enough connection, she called for an ambulance and the police. She waited nervously for the ambulance, wishing that the man would still be alive when help arrived. She reminded herself that she had never seen someone in such a situation before, and the idea of losing him made her feel uneasy and troubled. Helen felt many emotions, thinking about how she would respond if the roles were switched. The loneliness of the place weighed on her as she stood between the eerie scene and the nearby homes. When she heard the siren and saw the flashing lights, she ran to the road to guide them to the location. The paramedics carefully brought him into the ambulance after going down a long gravel path. A police officer arrived soon after and asked Helen to come with him to the hospital to give her statement while the man was treated. She was curious about who he was, so she agreed to go. She recognized some local runners since she ran for about an hour every day, but she didn't remember this man. While waiting in the hospital reception, Helen called her mother to tell her where she was and ask if she could pick her up after work. She explained that she hadn't been able to make the Sunday dinner they had planned for later. Several hours later, when her mother arrived, the doctor talked to Helen about trying to reach the man, as he had been awake during their quick meeting in the woods. Helen wasn't sure if he had really woken up or if he was just moving in and out of awareness. The doctor hoped she could connect with him, noting that he had not responded to other things. When Helen spoke to him, there were signs of brain activity, and the doctors asked her to come back as much as she could in the next few days while he was in a medically supported recovery. Sharon Bister, Helen's mother, worked at an estate agency in a temporary sales office within one of the show houses at the start of a new housing area. She couldn't leave until closing time at dusk. At the hospital, she comforted Helen, who was visibly upset. "Mom, he seems to be alone. The police don't know who he is. No one has reported him missing. He's here all by himself." A single tear rolled down Helen's cheek. "Honey, it's only been a few hours since this happened. Maybe he lives alone, and his neighbors haven't noticed he's gone yet." "But he's wearing a wedding ring, Mom. He has no wallet or keys with him, and no car keys either, which means he must have started from home nearby. Someone must be inside who can let him back in. Someone is waiting for him to come home." Helen's voice trembled as she added, "And he was in a serious situation today. The doctors say he might not make it through the night. What do you want to do, sweetheart?" Sharon smiled, recalling how Helen used to bring home lost animals as a child, thinking they were alone. "They said I can visit whenever I want, but I can't stay here all the time." Helen looked at her mother like a young child again, remembering the time she had found an injured bird and smiled weakly. "All right," Sharon laughed softly. "I'll visit him tomorrow while you're at college." Emma, Rich's wife, called him. "Hi, hun. Did you miss me?" she asked playfully. "Of course I did. It's been lonely without you, dear," Richard replied, as expected. "You wouldn't know what to do without me around," she laughed. "Yeah, I guess," Richard said. "Anyway, how's your mom?" "She's still the same. Not getting any better," Emma replied, and then asked brightly, "So, where were you last night, Rich? I tried calling several times before the game started, but your phone was off." "I went to bed early. I was really tired, couldn't even stay up for the game. I heard County almost won yesterday, though. I watched the replay this morning." "You must have been really tired," Emma said. "Make sure to rest well, honey. I'll be home on Monday night, and I just might need some extra attention when I see you." "I know what you mean," Richard agreed, feeling weary. He couldn't forget that Emma wanted to start a family, and they had been trying hard for months. "Hi, Tig," Jennifer called out, waving as she saw her youngest, the fourth child, getting off the coach at school. "Hey, hi, Mom," he grinned as he walked over. Jennifer tried not to shake her head when she noticed his pants were hanging low on his hips. She hoped everything was okay underneath. Tig, as he was called since he was little, bent down and gave her a quick hug. "I need to get my bags," he said, turning and heading back to the coach. Jennifer closed her eyes and counted to 30 before opening them again. Then she began looking for Tig's two siblings. She spotted Tom right away. He was so tall and thin that he caught her eye among the other kids at the weekend camp. He stood in front of the coach with Susanna Fincher, his girlfriend, and her mother, Madge. Susanna was in Tom's class, and they had been close friends since they were both about 14. Jennifer knew that Susanna didn't join the camp because she was busy planning their wedding at the end of January. Susanna was 4 months pregnant, and Jennifer wondered how the wedding dress fitting would go with her growing belly. The couple had argued before the trip. Susanna felt stressed about organizing everything alone. Tom, who loved the outdoors, insisted on coming to camp. Still, they seemed to have forgotten their disagreement for the moment. Madge's husband, Andrew, was not there, as he usually spent Sundays on the golf course. Next, Jennifer looked for her middle child, her daughter, JJ. Although they shared a name, Jennifer always called her JJ. The smallest of the three and the quietest, you might think she would be harder to find, but Jennifer knew where she would be. Not among the luggage being unpacked, where Tig was causing a bit of chaos, which made Jennifer smile. JJ would be at the back of the coach, leaning against it with her head down. Her curly hair hung around her face, and her shoulders were hunched, arms crossed over her chest. She wore a bulky sweater that looked too big for her. JJ often preferred to blend in instead of standing out, which worried Jennifer. JJ had always been cheerful and lively, but since her early teens, she had become more thoughtful and reserved. She seemed to have only one friend, Sharon Shazza Mason, a surprising match given Shazza's bubbly nature compared to JJ's quieter demeanor. Just one friend, no romantic interests, and of course her dad. If Bob were here, Jennifer thought, he would encourage JJ to talk about her weekend. Without him, JJ was unusually quiet on the way home. Chapter 2. Remember to forget I'm dreaming again. I see bright lights in the darkness. My head and ribs hurt. I stumble around, feeling lost and confused. I roll and keep rolling, feeling out of control. Eventually, I bump into a tree. As I look around, it is lighter. There are trees all around, and I have no idea where I am. I am cold and wet and ache all over. I can't even remember who I am. I know something bad has happened, and I want to block it out. There are images I never want to remember. Bury them. Destroy them. Everything else that is lost is just extra. Everything else doesn't matter. I don't even matter. I gave up, remember? I let everything fade away. I was lost. I wanted to go, but then she pulled me back. Who's she? I am trying to remember everything. Truly, I am trying my best. Suddenly, John Doe sits up. I'm Tommy, Tommy Barlow. I was born in 1958 in Nottingham, to Anne and Alan Barlow. I know I'm an engineer. I work a lathe, and I'm happily married to Sally. We don't have kids yet, but we plan to start a family as soon as we find a stable place to live. All right, Tommy, the male nurse, Ben, said soothingly. You just relax now, and I'll get the doctor for you in a moment. Yes, I need a doctor. I can't see. Your eyes are covered for now, Tommy, while they heal. I'll leave you with Helen for a minute. Hi, Tommy, a soft and calming young woman's voice said. I'm so glad you're awake. We were really worried about you. Were you the one I was talking to earlier? Yes, but you were only awake for a couple of minutes before you fell asleep again for about 20 minutes. How long have I been here? 4 days now. Tonight is Halloween. Halloween? Isn't that in November? No, it's the last night of October. The injured man fell quiet. Helen thought about his face again, recalling how it looked from the time she first saw him in the woods to the more peaceful look he had now. His eyes were blue, a soft gray blue. Helen had seen them for a brief moment when the paramedics were trying to see if he was conscious. She wished to see them again, to know he could see and feel whole again. She was amazed by how fast his recovery was happening. It was hard to believe he had come this far. Tommy. He said his name was Tommy. It felt like a young man's name. Thomas or Tom would seem more fitting for a man who had been through so much. Soon he would be healthy again, she thought, smiling to herself. Yes, he looked healthy in every way, despite being about the same age as her mother. He had a striking face, long and slim, with high cheekbones, a sturdy nose, and a wide, friendly smile. She had been watching him for so long she knew every line in his face. It looked peaceful. The only lines were tiny creases around his mouth, a sign of his smile. Tommy reminded her of her father, whom she saw very little now since he was now with someone closer in age to her and had another child a few years back. No, Tommy would be a great match for Sharon, Helen's mom, if only Tommy weren't married. Now he was awake, lying still but not completely at ease. His mind, Helen imagined, must be racing. What was he thinking? I'm Helen, by the way, she said, introducing herself. Hi, Helen, nice to meet you. Are you a nurse? No, I'm just visiting. The doctors asked me to stay and talk to you, she replied. I found you on a trail in the woods on Sunday. The woods? Where are they? Birkinshaw Woods. Where's that? In Holymore side. I'm sorry, I don't know where that is. It's near Chesterfield in Derbyshire. What am I doing here? Nottingham is about 25 miles away. I don't even have a car to get here. Maybe you ran all the way, Helen said with a chuckle. That's a nice laugh, Tommy said, feeling a little better. It was the first nice thing he had experienced since waking up. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that out loud. That's all right, Helen giggled. I'm just really happy to see you awake and feeling better. When I found you, I was worried. You looked quite unwell, but now you seem much improved. Well, I feel awkward, a recently married man talking to a nice woman. If you could see me, you'd know I'm not that nice. Her voice trailed off, lost in memories of Bruce, who had once called her lovely long ago before she moved back in with her mother. I think you sound lovely. Yes, very charming. Helen, right? Yes, Helen Bister. I was jogging on Sunday and took a shortcut through the woods. I don't usually go that way. I got a bit lost along an animal path. Are you saying I was lucky to be found at all? Well, I'm not sure about that, but you were in a quiet spot and certainly not well. I really looked bad then? Yes, you did. I was worried you wouldn't make it. And the paramedics, who are they? The paramedics, the ambulance team? Helen explained. They were quick but seemed concerned. They said all the right things, but their tone didn't sound too sure. Someone needs to contact my wife, Tommy said. She probably wants to know where I am. I think she sent me out for something milk. Yes, a pint of milk, and I was out of cigarettes, too. You didn't have your phone. What's your wife's number? You shouldn't use phones here, but I might be able to make a quick call. No, we don't have a phone. We live in a small flat, just the upstairs part of an old house. We haven't been married long. You know, there are a lot of bills and not much saved, just my paycheck. And now with me stuck here, I don't know how we will manage. There's no sick pay at my job. Just then, the doctor walked into the room with the nurse, Ben. Well, Mr. Barlow, is it? The doctor asked. Yes? I'm Dr. Harding. We've been concerned about you for the past few days, Mr. Barlow. Can you tell me how you feel? Well, I can't see anything at the moment, Doc. I think you should explain what happened to me because, honestly, I don't know where I am or what happened. Okay, you are in Chesterfield Royal Hospital. You were brought in on Sunday with serious injuries. You were in shock and had lost a lot of blood from an earlier wound. You were really dehydrated, too. You have stitches on your head and 2 broken ribs. Your hands are bruised and wrapped up because you were trying to protect yourself. We kept you asleep for a while so you wouldn't disturb your breathing tube. Besides a tube for your lungs, you should be okay and should be out of here in about a week. You can probably start jogging again in 3 weeks. Jogging? Yes, you came in wearing jogging shorts and a top, which we had to cut off you, but your socks and shoes should be fine, though your right shoe is quite stained. Everyone keeps saying I should run, Doctor. I don't run well, not since gym class in school. I've had a craving for a cigarette since I woke up. I doubt I'd have enough energy on a good day to catch the bus, let alone run. You were wearing nice shoes for someone who doesn't run much, Ben added. Those shoes must have cost over 100 pounds. They can't be mine. I don't earn that much at Laylam's. I can barely afford the bus fare to work. It's too far to run from home anyway, at least 3 or 4 miles. There was a short silence. Ben said, Those Saucony running shoes looked pretty worn. Maybe you got them from a thrift store. Mr. Barlow, Dr. Harding said, I can assure you that you have the build of someone who runs regularly. I would be surprised if you have been a smoker for years. Nothing came up on the test for nicotine. So, is there anything else you want to ask me? I'll think of something, Doctor. For now, I think I need to rest. I have a lot on my mind, and I'm feeling confused. That's a good idea, Harding replied, writing notes at the foot of the bed. Rest is the best medicine. However, I believe the police want to talk to you now that you're awake. Oh? What have I done? Nothing to be worried about, Mr. Barlow. You've been on the local news twice this week, as far as I know. Anyway, I need to continue my rounds. Rest today, Mr. Barlow, and I'll see you again in the morning. The doctor left the room with Ben, leaving Tommy and Helen alone. He's always a bit blunt, Mr. Barlow. It seems to come with the job. The nurse says he's the best doctor they have. The nurse? Yes, Ben is the nurse. But he's a man with a thick accent. That seems a bit odd. Yes, I think he comes from Africa. I didn't ask him where he is from. He's done a great job taking care of you. He's very nice, too. And he's quite good-looking. Helen giggled. Do you want a drink? There's some water here, Mr. Barlow. Yes, thanks, Tommy replied quietly. Please call me Tommy, Helen. You make me sound old. Helen thought about asking him for more information. She was curious about what had happened to him. She had overheard bits of conversation between the officers and a new detective who had come to see Tommy yesterday. Her mother, Sharon, had also heard a few things, and they had tried to piece together the story this morning when Helen took over. They tried to cover as much time as possible between 8 in the morning and 10 at night. During the week, Sharon didn't have to work, so she often came by at night if she couldn't sleep, just like last night. The nursing staff and even the officer on duty that first day were understanding of their presence. Especially that first day when no one knew anything about him, and Helen had become their main source of information. That had continued through to Wednesday. In just the last 2 days, though, it had come out that Tommy, still called John Doe in the news, was becoming known as a hero. He had bravely stepped in when 2 people tried to take a young girl off the path in the woods. Tommy had managed to distract them enough for the girl to escape. Sadly, they had reacted and left him in bad shape. Helen left the room to call her mom with this news. She would likely drop everything to come to the hospital. At the doorway, she took a quick look back at him. Tommy lay silently in the hospital bed, long and thin, still unable to see, his eyes covered in bandages and lost in his thoughts. Helen felt sympathy for him. It was a wet November morning. Everything was damp from the heavy dew overnight. Fallen leaves from the storms of the past few nights were blocking the drains, and there were puddles everywhere. Rachel Webster hurried from the hospital parking lot towards the entrance. She hadn't been in the Royal Hospital for 2 days in a row since she worked as a beat officer 2 years ago. Back then, she often visited the emergency room, which used to be called Casualty. She remembered spending many Friday and Saturday nights there, often longer than she was at the station the rest of the week. It felt so different now that she had moved to CID, where she had to start over, taking on less appealing tasks. This current assignment felt like a simple job, something even the newest officer in the department could manage. Hermann Göring, the duty inspector, had been a detective in this usually quiet town for 20 years. He felt he had nothing new to learn, and was annoyed by anyone new coming into his space, especially if they seemed more skilled. Rachel knew about his attitude and realized she would stay as the overlooked newcomer until someone else moved ahead. What began as a simple task was starting to draw attention, with local and regional news outlets expressing interest. Herman wanted to take charge, but Rachel wasn't ready to give up control just yet. She smiled to herself, unaware that John Doe had woken up. She had seen the side room where the injured man was located the day before. As she looked around, the same 2 women were there again. There was always at least one of them. Now, with the news of his waking up, both were present. She had noted their names before to keep track of who was who. Helen was the younger one, not much younger than Rachel, still living with her mother, Sharon, who had been through a tough time with a recent divorce. Rachel thought about whether to ask them to step out while she spoke to the injured man, or to keep them there. If they were on her side, they might provide useful information based on what they learned from him. I'll see how it goes, she thought, though she knew Herman would have sent them away without thinking twice, which made her lean toward keeping both Bister girls involved. Good morning, Rachel said, giving her best cheerful smile. Hello, Detective, Sharon replied, matching her smile. Hi, Helen added, also smiling brightly. Who's that? Asked Tommy, still with small patches covering his eyes. I'm Detective Rachel Webster, Mr. Barlow. Please call me Rachel. I just want to ask you a few questions about what happened to you on Sunday. I take it you still can't see anything? I think my eyes will be fine, Rachel. Thanks. Call me Tommy. Everyone else does. Ben changed the dressings this morning with the lights dimmed as much as he could and still do his job. I could see the lights but couldn't focus yet. It made my head spin and gave me a bit of a headache. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you okay to answer a few questions? I can come back later if you prefer, Rachel said, setting down her bag and pulling a chair closer to the bed where the 2 ladies were sitting. No, that's fine. You can ask when you're ready, but I must say I can't remember much, Tommy replied. Helen stayed firmly in her chair, but Sharon hesitated and began to get up, saying, "Do you want—" Rachel waved her back down. "That's all right. This is a pretty casual meeting. I just need to take a few notes, but it's not recorded or anything. A formal statement can wait until Tommy is well enough to come down to the station." "I've been trying to think, Rachel, but I can't remember much," Tommy said. "I see some bright lights. It feels like day and night. I think it has been raining. My head and ribs hurt. There are trees everywhere. I think I rolled and bumped into one." "Well, it wasn't raining on Saturday night or Sunday," Helen spoke up, even though she wasn't meant to. "Maybe it was just heavy dew," Rachel suggested. "Like this morning. It feels like autumn outside. The doctors believe you were outside for a couple of hours, and another witness thinks you were there for about 2.5 hours before Miss Bister found you." "Call me Helen, please," Helen said with a smile. Rachel nodded. "I've been trying to remember since I woke up yesterday, but I can't recall anything after about the 15th, I think. It was a Thursday, and Tommy had gone to the shops to put in his pool's coupon and buy some milk and cigarettes before the corner shop closed. He had planned to stop for a drink at the Cobbler's on Union Street and maybe enjoy a game of bar billiards. "The 15th was a Tuesday," Sharon chimed in. "I had a hair appointment that afternoon. I always go on Tuesdays because my stylist doesn't work Mondays, and it definitely wasn't the 13th. Rachel agreed. "Yes, the 15th was definitely a Tuesday." "Maybe it was Thursday the 17th then." "I'm not really sure," Tommy replied slowly. "Everything feels unclear, and I seem to have lost track of time." "Well, let's start with some basic information: full name, address, next of kin, date of birth, that sort of thing." "My name is Thomas Adam Barlow. I was born on the 25th of April, 1958 in Nottingham. My parents are Anne and Alan Barlow, who live at Flat 363 Arnold Mansions, Nottingham. My wife is Sally Lydia Chapman, and we live at 23 Mill Lane, Nottingham. We got married on the 25th of November, and in 3 weeks, it will be our first anniversary." "Sorry?" Rachel interrupted. "Don't you mean your 33rd anniversary?" "No," he laughed. "We're newlyweds, Rachel. Has anyone tried to reach her for me? I'm sure she'll be worried. She's a wonderful person, but she can get upset. She has been a bit short with me lately. Now she'll be annoyed there was no milk left for her tea. That's why I went out in the first place. I called the Nottingham station late last night when I learned you were awake and who you were. They have all your details and should update me later today." "That's good. Thanks, Rachel. I really miss Sally. She'll be all alone without me at the flat. She doesn't have much family. She doesn't get along with her dad and hardly sees him since he married someone else years ago. Her mom also remarried and moved far away. I really want to see my mom and dad again," she said. "If you just got married?" Sharon asked carefully, looking at Rachel, who nodded. "When did you get married?" "On November 25th last year," Tommy smiled. "I'd really be in trouble if I forgot that." "And when do you think you went missing?" Rachel leaned forward in her chair. "I can't remember much after October 15th, or maybe it was the 17th. I'm confused now. I was going to the shops, and it was definitely a Thursday." "What year?" Rachel asked. "What year? This year, of course." He laughed. "You know, 1981. So the last day you remember before you woke up is Thursday, October 15th, 1981. Is that right, Tommy?" "That's right exactly, Rach." "So you are what age? Let me check," she said, looking through her notes. 23, Tommy said. "I'll be turning 24 next April if they ever let me go." Chapter 3. Blinkers Off. "JJ, if you're not down here in 2 minutes, I'm feeding your breakfast to the dog." Jennifer Morris called up the stairs for the 3rd time. Her 16-year-old daughter didn't have school today. They wouldn't go back until Monday, but Friday was Jennifer's cleaning day, and she wanted the kids out of her way for the rest of the day. Her oldest son, Tom, 18, was already up and out. His girlfriend's family had picked him up early. He seemed to get along well with them, which surprised Jennifer since he often had a difficult time at home. He even argued with his girlfriend a lot. The news about Susanna expecting a baby had surprised everyone in ways they didn't see coming. Tigger, the youngest at 14, kept to himself as usual and had left half an hour ago after eating 2 bowls of cereal. "Now, JJ!" Jennifer called again. Finally, she heard one of the bedroom doors open and the bathroom door close. That brought a smile to her face. Today was cleaning day, and she preferred an empty house, but she also had something tough to do. Yesterday, Bob's boss had asked about how he was doing after his accident at work. At least that answered a question in her mind. Bob must not have known about her friendship with Richard ahead of time. It must have just been unfortunate luck that made him come home and find them together. Bob was probably just as surprised as they were. What a mess. They had been very careful up until now. It didn't matter, the friendship, especially since he had learned about it. It was never meant to be more than a little bit of fun. Now things were serious and becoming even more so. Bob had talked to Richard and then left quickly. Jennifer had watched it all like a scene in a movie. When it was over, instead of going after her husband, the man she loved, she found herself standing still, not sure what to do. What did that say about her? She didn't love Richard any more than he loved her. For both of them, it was just a brief distraction. Bob was kind and caring, but something must have been missing in her marriage for her to act this way. Jennifer had been avoiding spending time with Bob for a couple of months now, since shortly after the affair began. She thought maybe he suspected something and was trying to catch them. Bob also seemed less interested in her lately, and didn't complain about the space. He was too focused on his jogging, working on his speed, and preparing for his first marathon. "Okay, Mom, I'm ready." JJ's arrival interrupted Jennifer's troubling thoughts. Even though we've never had a dog, her daughter was in jeans with ripped knees and a warm sweater against the cold wind. She wasn't wearing any makeup, and her curly hair was messy. She had brought down that old denim jacket she wore almost every day for the last few years. For the umpteenth time, Jennifer thought it was a pity. If JJ put in a little effort, she could be very pretty. She was slim and fit, yet always wore clothes that covered her entirely. Jennifer couldn't remember the last time she saw JJ in a dress. However, she looked stunning in swimwear during the weekly ladies' sessions at the local pool. "I'm not sure what the eggs are like, JJ, after all this time," Jennifer said as she served the food onto a warm plate. "They might be quite hard." "No problem, Mom," JJ replied, covering her breakfast with ketchup. "What are your plans for today?" "I'll meet Shaza at the shops, hang out at the arcade, you know, stuff." Jennifer imagined that stylish Shaza would love window shopping. It didn't seem like JJ's thing at all. "Well, make sure you're back by 5:30. I'll have dinner ready at 6 and I need you to help set the table." "Will Dad be home by then?" JJ asked, her tone a bit sharp. It felt like everything about JJ had an edge recently. Teenage girls, thought Jennifer. Particularly my teenage girl, while the boys were really no trouble at all. "I don't know, sweetheart. I hope so." "What have you done to him now, Mom?" JJ asked, an edge in her voice as she took a bite of her baked beans. "What do you mean?" "Come on, Ma. When did Dad last go on a course? You must have done something. Don't you think it's about time you talk to Dad?" "What do you mean?" "You know, I know, everybody knows," JJ said with her mouth full of eggs and toast. "Probably, even Dad knows." "Knows what?" "Knows about your activities." "Did he finally find out about something you shouldn't have been doing while we were away for the weekend?" she challenged. "I can't believe you think that. Your dad and I—" "Yeah, like you and Dad are always together, Mother," JJ snapped. "It looks to me like he's finally moved on." "What? Have you heard from your father?" Jennifer asked, her face pale. "Nada, nothing. He's been hiding away for the last couple of years, and so have the boys. Meanwhile, you are completely out of your mind. How dare you say that? You're not too old to be grounded." "Yeah, like you can take the high ground, Mother." "What do you mean by that?" "Meaning you are acting in a way that's embarrassing. Us kids are ashamed of you, and it's about time that Dad—" In a moment of anger, Jennifer reached over and slapped JJ across the cheek, sending food flying onto the kitchen counter. Both stood frozen in shock, JJ surprised that her mother could do such a thing, and Jennifer shocked that she actually did. "JJ, I'm so sorry," Jennifer exclaimed. "Don't worry about it, Mother," JJ replied, blinking back tears, unwilling to let her mother see them. JJ stood up, grabbed her jacket from the back of the chair, and stormed out of the kitchen, throwing over her shoulder, "When Dad gets back, I hope it's only to collect me because I want to live with him. Not you." Jennifer stared at the closed kitchen door for a few minutes before sitting down, head in hands and crying uncontrollably. "So, the iPads are coming off this morning, huh?" Tommy smiled. "Great. Then I can see what Helen and Sharon look like." "We'll have to keep the lighting low for a few days, though," Ben warned with a chuckle, "until your eyes get used to the light again. Those two will dazzle you so much you won't notice anything else for a week." Tommy laughed. "I'll take your word for that, Ben, but I'm really looking forward to seeing my lovely Sally. She must be worried since I've been gone for almost 3 weeks. She's probably worried about paying the rent. It's £13 a week, and we only have about £20 saved in the post office for Christmas. I wonder if that detective Rachel has heard anything from the Knott's police yet." "You'll hear soon enough. It's not 9 o'clock yet. Let's get the doctor down here to start on your eyes," Ben said. "After that, we need to sit down and talk about some things." "Where are we with the Summersby Crescent break-ins, Rachel?" Inspector Goring asked as he walked through the detective's office. Rachel looked up from her papers. "I have an interview with Mr. and Mrs. Cotton at number 63 at 11:30, boss. We got photos of their recovered car from Derby police. They found a couple of laptops in the boot, and since the Cottons don't seem to use computers, they might help us learn more about the suspects." "What are you doing until then?" Goring asked, scanning her desk and picking up her papers. "Just looking into that John Doe from the hospital, boss," she replied, giving him a displeased look as he read her letter without asking. "The report is from Nottingham CID. It seems his partner has moved away and hasn't been seen for a long time, but they found his mother, who hasn't heard from him in over 30 years. He continued reading her note, so she added, "The bandages from his eyes are coming off this morning, and I want to know if he can tell us anything." "That's just a side issue, Rachel. Not worth our time. Just find out what he knows about the people who tried to take the girl. Maybe see if the photographs bring anything to mind. Then file it, since we don't have much on the 2 suspects, and since nothing serious happened to the girl, I doubt the CPS will take action. However, it looks like this wave of burglaries might be growing and could become serious." He dropped the note and turned to leave. "Okay, boss. I'll keep you updated." Rachel watched him go to his office and quietly muttered, "He doesn't see that everyone knows these guys had a plan when they took Hannah Knight in that empty area. We know what would have happened if Tommy Barlow hadn't arrived when he did." Checking her watch, which showed 20 past 8, she figured if she left now with rush hour traffic, it would be just past 9 by the time she parked at the Royal Hospital and made her way to the ward. Richard Robertson couldn't believe his good luck. He was filling up the company truck on his way back to the depot to get another load of bricks. The weather was chilly and damp, but it wasn't raining hard enough to stop the team from working. The foreman noticed that Richard seemed distracted and told him to head back in the truck to collect the next batch of bricks and sand. "Rich, I see you're not focused. Pay attention to the job or I will find someone else to do it," he said sharply. "Sorry, boss. Emma's at her mother's for a few days, so I can finally relax a bit," Richard replied. The other workers smiled, knowing Richard was happy to take a break from the job and the gentle teasing for a while. While refueling, Richard had a moment to think. It seemed like his relationship with Jennifer was over. She had stopped wanting to talk, and he felt a wave of relief wash over him. The relationship had felt too intense. Although it was exciting at first, things had changed, and the thrill was gone. Richard took some pride in outsmarting Bob, but finding out about the affair had changed everything. Bob's sudden arrival had startled him, and when Jen had yelled, Richard jumped out of bed, completely unprepared. He never thought Bob would confront him like that. Although he ended up with a bruise, he managed to hide it by saying he was working late on a job that wasn't far from home. Emma returned tired and went to bed early, which let Richard avoid questions about his bruise. He even suggested having nice dinners to keep her mind off things. Richard noticed the young woman behind the counter. She had a friendly smile that caught his eye. Her name tag read Cheryl, and she seemed to enjoy his casual chat. He hadn't been at this gas station before and thought he might come this way again. "Hey, Dad, You awake? I was driving by and thought I'd come over to see you. Of course I'm awake, cheeky. I'm probably up before you even thought of getting out of bed. How long until you get here? Came the familiar voice on the hands-free. 2 minutes, Dad. I'm just turning at the end of the road. Chief Inspector Mike Harroldson chuckled. Can you put the kettle on for some tea? The kettle switched off automatically, and Ralph prepared the tea on the counter. He had moved to this 2-bedroom flat over 35 years ago when his marriage to Marjorie, Mike's mother, ended. She had left him for a truck driver she met at a pub, leaving 5-year-old Mike for Ralph to raise, along with a pile of investigation cases to keep him busy for months. He smiled at his grown son Mike sitting at the kitchen table. He could tell Mike was excited to share something, and that youthful spirit inside him never changed. Ralph remembered those early days when he often had babysitters for his son. Little Mikey became a regular visitor at the Nottingham CID because Ralph was the boss back then. Now, Mike held that title, and he didn't have the same family responsibilities as Ralph did. Come on, Mike, just tell me, Ralph said with a smile as he stirred the tea leaves in the pot. Why are you here visiting your old man on a Saturday morning? I do come to see you, Dad. I don't always need a reason, Mike replied a little shyly. But there is something I wanted to talk about. Ralph slid a full mug of tea toward him and watched as Mike added 3 spoonfuls of sugar, taking his time to gather his thoughts. Ralph couldn't help but think Mike should be more careful about his weight. Ralph had struggled with his own weight before, and it was hard to lose those extra pounds once they came on. Mike could really use a good friend to help him stay on track, but finding good friends was not easy. Ralph knew that without Fiona, he might have been in a tough spot. Do you remember the Barlows, Dad? Mrs. Barlow used to babysit for me when I was a kid. Yes, I remember. I stayed in touch with Ann Barlow for a long time, but I haven't seen her since Alan passed away. I feel a bit bad about that, Ralph said. I don't think she has much family left, Mike added. Well, it seems she has someone now. Her son Tommy has come back after all these years. He's in Chesterfield. What? Ralph said in surprise. Yeah, I was shocked when I read the report. He's in the hospital over there. He got hurt trying to help in a situation. The local officers say he's being called a bit of a hero. Wow, Ralph replied, blowing on his tea thoughtfully. I thought he might have gotten into trouble. What does he say about leaving his wife, child, and parents? The officers haven't shared much about that yet. The detective on the case said he was found jogging without any ID and there hadn't been a missing person report. He was in pretty bad shape and didn't wake up for several days. When he finally came to, he told them who he was. Maybe this will help solve an old mystery. I wonder why he disappeared in the first place. Maybe he had some problems at home? Mike suggested. No, by the time he went missing, he was in his early 20s. He had already moved out, got married, and was even about to become a father. I knew Tommy's dad, Alan, very well. He was nice and caring. Both of Tommy's parents were great. There was no sign that Tommy was doing anything wrong. Maybe there was a problem in their marriage. Perhaps his wife was seeing someone else and he discovered it. Or maybe he thought the baby she was expecting wasn't his, someone suggested. I don't even think he knew about the baby on the way. I wasn't part of the original case, as you know, but after Ann Barlow started caring for you regularly, we talked more, so I looked up the case notes quietly. I never spoke with Tommy's wife, and I can't recall her name, but I saw her around, and she didn't seem like someone who would cheat. She was lovely but shy, especially around men, yet she was great with you kids. They were first loves, it seems, and I don't think they ever dated anyone else before they got married. Ann spent time caring for both you and the baby. I didn't mind at all. Ann was wonderful with you. I only remember Ann a little bit. I remember your Fiona much more. Yes, Fee joined our little family later on, but Ann was helpful when Fee and I went out, although you were usually asleep by the time Fee was ready. Well, I'm here because I need to visit Ann Barlow and tell her the news, Mike said. Do you want to come with me? You can't stop me. Ralph laughed. Are you going now? No time like right now, Dad. Chapter 4. Missing. Hi, Tommy, Rachel said as she walked into the dim room. You must be Rachel? He asked, squinting at the light from the doorway. I thought I recognized your voice. Sorry, Tommy, I should have remembered you hadn't seen me before, just heard me, the detective said. And it is still pretty dark in here. When did they take off your iPads? Just about 10 minutes ago. You are my very first visitor since I could see again. I thought Helen and Sharon would be here already, Rachel said. I think Sharon works weekends, so Helen was here alone. They sent her out before the doctor removed the bandages and checked my eyes. I think Helen said she was going for a coffee and a snack. Anyway, do you have news for me? Helen went for a coffee, which is a drink with milk. I have some good news and some bad news. There are some things we don't know yet, too. That doesn't sound very hopeful, Rachel, he said calmly. How do you want to do this? Good news first, then bad, or the other way around? You seem pretty calm about all this, Tommy. I've been catching up with Ben and the doctor for the last half hour about the 30 years I've missed. That was quite a surprise, to say the least. Anything else you say is just extra. Well, that's one bad news item I can remove from my list. I'm really glad someone else found that out first. Rachel sat in the chair next to the bed, noticing with a small smile that his eyes looked her way for a moment. Yes, Tommy, she thought. I do exercise a lot, and I feel good about it. It's disappointing that my team, Notts County, has fallen from Division 1 to the bottom of Division 3, Tommy said. Or whatever they call those divisions now. Ben tried to explain it to me, but I got a bit confused. I liked the old simple numbering system. As they talked, Tommy felt like time had passed so quickly, and he had been left behind. The doctor had shown him his reflection in a mirror just minutes ago, and he could see he was older than he remembered. I guess you're going to tell me that in the last 30 years, my dear Sally has moved on without me? Well, I don't have any information about Sally right now. The Nottingham team hasn't found anything yet. There's nothing in the old file I received that hasn't been updated for 25 years when, Rachel paused, when you were officially declared deceased. Oh, I feel a chill, Tommy said softly to himself. Any idea where I have been living and who with for the last 30 years or so? We've had a bit of a lead from the police in Buxton. They have a description of you that came in over the phone yesterday afternoon, but no photos yet. The woman who reported her husband missing will talk to the Buxton police later today. They will update me if anything comes from that. I thought I must have remarried, Tommy said quietly. What do you remember? Rachel asked. No, Rachel, I don't remember anything at all. When they took off the bandages from my hand and fingers yesterday, I could feel my wedding ring. I saw it a few moments ago. It's a thin gold band, worn down in places, with some design that feels smooth now. When I married Sally, I had a thicker gold band with no pattern, just a little message inside. So I know now that I must have remarried, probably a long time ago, too. I might be a bigamist, Rachel suggested. Yeah, that, Tommy said softly. I really can't picture this second marriage. There was never anyone else in my life besides Sally. She always meant so much to me. We grew up together, became best friends, and naturally moved on to more. Once we reached that point, I thought we were meant to be together forever. I was never really interested in anyone else. Occasionally, I would joke with others, but that was just my way. Sally never worried. She knew she had no reason to compete. You never know what life will bring, Tommy. We can't predict what will happen, so we just have to deal with things as they come. Who is this person missing from Buxton? The woman's name was... Rachel flipped through her notes. Jennifer Eleanor Morris. Her husband, Robert Neil Morris, has been missing since last Sunday morning. Does that ring a bell, Tommy? No, ma'am, it doesn't. I wish it did. He's an avid jogger as well. Just so you know. Jennifer Morris felt anxious as she waited by herself in the interview room at the Buxton police station. A policewoman had brought her a cup of coffee over 10 minutes ago. She checked her watch again, feeling like she had been sitting there for a long time. She grimaced as she took another sip. The coffee was cold and not very good, but it was one of the only things she could do with her hands. Finally, Detective Constable Paul Tully came in and took the information Jennifer was ready to share. She explained that she had last seen her husband early Sunday morning when he returned home from work. Shortly after, he left for his usual run. Jennifer thought through how to explain to the police why she hadn't reported him missing sooner. When the detective asked if something was wrong, she hesitated but admitted they had a small argument. Jennifer told Tully she thought he would stay at a motel for a few days and would return when he was ready to talk things over. She noted that they sometimes had these disagreements, which were not serious. He had left his wallet at home and didn't take the car. He usually enjoyed his long runs on Sunday mornings, but this time he hadn't come back. The detective listened, understanding what Mrs. Morris was saying and deciding not to ask more questions at that moment. He realized it would no longer be his case. If the team from Chesterfield wanted to investigate further, they could. He had already spoken to D.C. Rachel Webster at Chesterfield CID and planned to send an email with a scanned photo that Mrs. Morris provided. From what both D.C. Webster and Mrs. Morris said, it seemed that an injured man in Chesterfield might be her husband. He had been there since Sunday, but he must have arrived by car or train because Chesterfield was about 25 miles from Buxton. "It's too soon to tell if we have found your husband right now, Mrs. Morris," Tully said. "We have received reports of a man who seems to match your description, but some details don't match up, so I don't want to get your hopes up yet about finding him. I'll send this photo to the right department this morning. We will contact you in the next couple of days once we have more news for you." Jennifer Morris walked into the restaurant at the service station and looked around. A wave from a table near the window drew her attention to Richard Robertson. He certainly had a talent for making unwise choices, and this was not the first time. They had planned to meet right after her talk with the police, but in a more private spot. Instead, Richard picked a table in a very visible area, close to the busy main hall, where anyone passing by could see them. She sighed and walked over. "Hi, Jen. What did the police say?" Richard asked, as she took a seat across from him. "They think they might know where Bob is, but they aren't sharing any details with me right now," Jen replied. "They have someone in custody who fits Bob's description, but there are different stories coming from him, reported by another police station somewhere. Again, they're not saying much. They will send the photo to that station today." "Sounds like Bob is being difficult, Jen." "Well, can you blame him?" she said softly. "Finding your partner and best friend in a tough spot is enough to upset anyone, even someone as calm as Bob. So the police are saying he's not in Buxton, right?" He reached for her hand, but she pulled back. "No," she replied firmly. "Look, Richard, meeting here was a bad idea. We should be avoiding each other. Honestly, why did you choose such an open place instead of a booth in the back? Anyone could see us. And then you try to hold my hand. Don't you see how wrong that is?" "I'm sorry, Jen. You know you mean a lot to me. Anyway, if you can't fix things with Bob, we could always—" "There's no we, Rich. Let's make that clear. I want my Bob back. I want my family back. I want everything to be as close to how it was as possible, no matter what it takes. I don't even know why I agreed to see you." Jennifer shook her head. "The time we spent together recently has been the hardest for me. It's the uncertainty that drives me crazy." "But we share a strong connection," Richard said in a whisper and leaned closer. "I never really moved on from you 10 years ago." "Oh my gosh," Jennifer said. 10 years ago was a huge mistake. I should have learned from that. Why did we even think to try this again? We had some good moments back then, didn't we?" "Nothing wrong with that, Jen. No harm has been done, and we will work it out, you see." "I don't know," she said, sounding worried. "But now Bob knows. We can't dwell on the past. We need to find out how Bob feels and see if we can change his mind," Richard said. "You know how to handle him." "I used to, Rich, but things are different now. We need to be careful from now on. If Bob and I even have a future together, I'm concerned that Bob might just try to forget about me." "Good morning, Anne," Ralph Harrelson said as soon as the door to the small apartment opened. "How are you, my dear?" "Ralph Harrelson?" the elderly lady asked, surprised. "Is that really you? Oh my, and young Mikey too. It's so wonderful to see you both. Please come in." "I apologize for the mess. I don't get many visitors these days." The apartment had one main room with a little kitchen area on one side and a couple of doors that likely led to the bedroom and bathroom. It was clean and tidy, with some knitting materials on the two-seater sofa and a spare chair. It wasn't messy at all, Mike thought. She should see his place. On second thought, he hoped she wouldn't see the mess in his place. Anne Barlow picked up her knitting and set it on the sideboard. Her guests waited for her to return, just a few steps away. Then they all sat together. Anne took her seat in the armchair while the two men settled onto the sofa. Anne smiled at them. "Can I get you two boys some tea?" Ralph cleared his throat. Maybe later, Anne. Look, let's get straight to the point. We think we may have found your Tommy, alive and well in Chesterfield. What? The old lady gasped before her eyes filled with tears. Ralph got up and gently hugged her, sitting on the side of her chair. He's recovering in the hospital, Ralph continued, after having an unfortunate incident. An incident, you say? She exclaimed. What happened to him? Oh, nothing bad that we know of, Ralph replied. He was attacked by two people after he helped rescue a young girl. So, Tommy's a hero then? She asked, her voice trembling. Ralph glanced at Mike, who said, I guess so. That's what I've been told. But why did he disappear? Why did he leave that poor girl, Sally, to manage everything alone? Why no word to his loved ones all this time? We don't have all the answers yet, Anne, Ralph reassured her. We're not even 100% sure that it's him. He took a deep breath. We plan to visit him on Monday morning. Would you like to come with us? Try and stop me, Ralph Haroldson, she replied, her determination clear. You just try and stop me. Hi, Tommy, a cheerful voice called from the doorway. It's so dark in here. Are you sure you can see okay? I can see you just fine, even in this dim light. Tommy chuckled from the chair next to the bed. It was even darker here earlier today. They've been letting in a bit more light to help me adjust. It's been really bright outside today, Sharon said with a smile. Though it's getting dark now and a bit chilly. I think I heard on the weather that there's a cold front coming in from the north. I brought you some grapes, but they're pretty cold. Thanks, that's really nice of you, Sharon. He looked at her. You look lovely, I must say. I could tell by your wonderful voice that you'd be beautiful. She placed a bag at the end of the bed and paused, wondering if it was okay to sit down. Their relationship felt different now that he was awake. When he was in a coma, she sat with him for hours without thinking about it. But now, they were just getting to know each other, and she felt something special was developing. That's very kind of you to say, she replied with a smile. I dress up nicer on weekends. I work for an estate agency in a new housing development. They have some really nice houses on the edge of town. She pulled a chair from the other side of the room and brought it to the end of the bed. Sorry, I can't help with the chair, Tommy said. They've let me get out of bed, and I even walked down the corridor with some eye shades on, but they won't let me lift anything yet or disconnect me from this IV. That's all right, I can handle it, she laughed lightly. I'm stronger than I look. You look great. I can see where Helen gets her looks from. Sorry if I'm making you feel awkward, Sharon. I didn't mean to flirt. It's just wonderful to be able to see again, even if it's still a bit dim in here. Plus, I don't know many people anymore, just you, Helen, Rachel, Ben, and a few nurses. I don't have any other visitors, only the doctors, and all they do is check on me. What makes you think Helen and I don't want to check on you, too? Sharon giggled. As long as you don't mind us visiting, we'll keep coming until you can see your family again. To me, Sharon, you, Helen, and Ben are my best friends, the only ones I seem to have now. I don't want to intrude, Tommy, but Helen texted me saying that Rachel brought you news about your mom this morning. Yeah, I found out that Mom reported me missing all those years ago, and the local police finally contacted her. Rachel visited today and said she received an old photo that looked like me. She mentioned that Mom would come to see me on Monday morning with a couple of policemen from Nottingham. Have you heard anything about your wife? Sharon asked gently. No, not yet. Rachel didn't know what the police discussed with my mom. She mentioned that my father passed away. Oh, no. Sharon took Tommy's hand, feeling sad for him. I'm so sorry. She noticed tears welling up in his tired eyes. Yeah, he said, wiping his nose. It was 3 years ago, it seems. He had a stroke and went to the hospital, then stayed in a nursing home for a while before he had another stroke. I think he got worse pretty quickly after that. Let's hope he didn't suffer too much. Yeah, I hope not. Tommy sank back in his chair for a bit, but then he looked a little happier. Oh, I have more news from Rachel, he said, a smile returning to his face. What is it? Sharon smiled back. My new family has finally reported me missing. Really? When did that happen? On Friday, by phone from Buxton, Tommy said, still grinning. Also, my new wife dropped off a recent photo of me at the station this morning. He started searching through the drawer next to his bed and pulled out a color photo. What do you think? Sharon took the photo from him and examined it. It showed a younger man than Tommy, with longer hair and less gray, sitting at a table in a suit with several women and men dressed nicely, along with 3 children. Did Rachel say when this was taken? 3 or 4 years ago at a friend's wedding, I think, he replied. They don't know me as Tommy, they think I'm someone else. What do you mean by someone else? Sharon asked, puzzled. A different name and background. It seems I completely changed my identity at least 20 years ago, he explained, frowning. So what is your other name? Sharon inquired. Robert Morris, or Bob for short. I work about 5 or 6 miles from my home in Buxton. He added, my wife's name is Jennifer, and I have 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. I can't remember anything about them. That's really tough, she said, surprised, trying to understand how Tommy ended up in this situation. It frightens me, honestly. I don't know who I am or what I've been doing for most of my life. Tommy shook his head. I'm especially scared to see those kids. What if I don't recognize any of them? I'm not sure I can handle that right now. Does your wife know you have lost your memory? I'm not sure what the police in Buxton have told her, he admitted. Rachel thinks that the police in Buxton won't say anything about me until there's a clear identification made, and that probably won't happen until she visits me. When will that be? Sharon asked. I'm not sure yet, Tommy replied, scratching his head. Rachel wants me to talk to my mom and the detectives from Nottingham first. I really want to see Mum, though. I miss her a lot. It looks like Rachel is in charge, Sharon said with a smile. She noticed that the younger woman was not much older than Helen and did not wear any rings. She's smart and really nice. Yeah, she seems pretty cool for a police officer, Tommy said, smiling. Yes, she truly is, Sharon agreed sadly. Chapter 5. Family Meeting. Okay, JJ, what's this family meeting about? Tom asked as they gathered in the dining room early on Sunday morning. I have a football match starting in an hour and I need to get ready. Yeah, JJ, Tigger chimed in. Why did I have to wake up so early? What's the rush? Keep it down, JJ whispered. I wanted us to talk without Mum hearing. You both disappeared so fast yesterday and it was tough to catch you together. You got me, Tigger said. I was at the mall and forgot to silence my phone. My friend was really upset. Your friend? Is that Caroline Billings? Good luck with that, Tom said. You won't get far with her. She's not interested. Be quiet, both of you, JJ whispered sharply, giving each of her brothers a gentle smack. Even though Dad had a rule against hitting sisters, JJ sometimes felt it was okay in serious situations like this. Right now, the future of their family felt uncertain. Do either of you know what's happening with Mum and Dad, and why has Dad been away all week? The 2 boys looked at each other, confused. Dad's missing, Tom asked. Yeah, what do you mean about Mum and Dad? Tigger added. You both are impossible. JJ tried to keep her voice low, but her frustration was growing. Sometimes I just want to shake both of you to make you pay attention. Tom and Tigger exchanged glances. Even seated at the table with JJ at the head, the boys were much taller than their small sister. They were both slim with blue eyes. Tom had long, straight blonde hair that he constantly adjusted, while Tigger kept his tightly curled reddish-brown hair cut short to avoid looking messy. JJ was small with dark brown hair that was so curly and unruly that she kept it cut short. Her eyes were a dark green with hints of hazel, showing frustration as she turned her gaze from one brother to the other. What's going on, JJ? Tom asked softly. You called this meeting and seem to know what's happening. I haven't noticed anything different, except maybe Mum is being nicer to me than usual. Didn't you find it strange on Sunday when we got back from camp that we didn't see Dad at all? No, he was working nights last week, so I thought he was just upstairs sleeping, Tom suggested, and Tigger agreed. Come on, JJ said. It was the last night of his work schedule on Saturday. He wouldn't miss meeting us at the bus. We know his usual routine. He goes for a run on his first day off, showers, and then has a couple of hours sleep before lunch. On Sundays, he would be watching football. He hadn't seen us all week, right? He would want to be there when we got back, help us with our things, and make sure we were settled before dinner. Yeah, you're right, he would, Tom and Tigger agreed. We didn't get back until 3 in the afternoon, so Mum even delayed dinner until 5, JJ continued. We were all so excited talking about camp that we didn't even notice Dad wasn't eating with us. I didn't even realize I hadn't seen him since we got back until Monday night. Tom and Tigger exchanged worried glances. Wow, Tom said. What a selfish bunch we are. I didn't even notice Dad was gone until you mentioned it. He's just been here but not really present for ages, Tigger added, his eyes wide. Me neither, JJ said, surprising herself as she touched the boy's hands lightly. We're just normal teenagers. I think... She paused for a moment. I think we need to understand that Dad may have had enough of Mum's behavior. Do you think Dad found out about Mum and that teacher? Tigger asked, referring to Mr. Western, their sportsmaster. What? Tom exclaimed, surprised. How do you know about that? JJ pressed. What do you know, Tigger? Guys, I only know what you do. I saw the photos like you did. How long have you known? A couple of years, I guess. You were only 12 then, JJ replied gently. We thought you didn't know or want to know. I didn't, Tigger admitted softly. I wish I could forget it, but I can't. One of my classmates surprised me with something I wasn't ready to see. This is such a mess, Tom sighed. What do we know about Dad, JJ? JJ took a deep breath. I think Dad came home very early Sunday morning and climbed in through the bathroom window. What? Both Tom and Tigger said at the same time. Shh, JJ whispered, holding her hands out to calm the boys down. She listened for any sound from her mother. Then she reached down and pulled up a sports bag. Is that the bag Dad takes to work? Tigger asked. Yeah, it is, JJ confirmed. So he came back and left this on the garage roof after using the stepladder from the shed. I wondered who moved the stepladder, Tom said, interrupting. I saw it when I got my bike from the shed last week. It was Dad. He must have climbed in through the bathroom window, JJ continued. Inside this bag are a change of clothes, a towel, his phone, a key ring with his work ID, and a locker key too, she said, taking out the items as she spoke. And there was this arm sling. Dad hurt his arm at work and was sent home early. It was probably too late to see Mum up, but early enough to be home while we were out. JJ, you're amazing! Tom laughed. Nancy would be impressed. Where did you find this bag? Tigger asked quietly, touching one of the handles. On the garage roof, just below the bathroom window, JJ replied. I wanted to ask Dad something on Monday, but Mum said he was away at a training course. Mum never mentioned Dad when I needed help with my homework, Tigger added. She just said he wasn't home and I accepted that. He hasn't gone to any courses in a long time, JJ explained. The company cut most of the training since times got tough. I didn't believe her. I tried Dad's number several times, but it always went to voicemail. I left messages all week without any response. On Friday afternoon, while Mum was cooking, I called him from the garden so she wouldn't hear. That's when I heard Dad's phone ringing. It took me some time to find it. I had to climb up the ladder to figure out where the sound was coming from. You on a ladder, JJ? Tom laughed. You don't like heights. Yeah, getting down was the hardest part. I didn't want Mum to know I was suspicious, especially with his work bag as proof, so I had to be very quiet. I listened to all of Dad's messages in my room until the battery died. His charger must be in their room, and there was no way I was going in there. There was one message from his boss at work, asking if his arm was okay and to let him know if he wasn't able to come in on Saturday when his shift started again. There was no mention of any training course. So Dad's left us, left Mom and us, Tigger cried. Not so fast, JJ said. If this happened as suddenly as it looks, then Dad didn't plan this. You think? Tom asked. Absolutely. He needs time to get things sorted, JJ insisted. He has to find a place to stay, maybe starting with a hotel room until he decides what to do with the savings. Then he would look for a small apartment until they sell this house and split the money before he can buy something else for himself. It'll have to be something really small after splitting, Tom said wisely, knowing about property costs since Susanna told him about the child. He'd likely need a long mortgage, which will limit his options. Not much space for just the two of them. There will only be space for Dad and me. You know I can't stand living with Mom, JJ said firmly. Anyway, math expert, where did you get 5 from? Mom isn't part of this anymore. Don't forget Susanna. That makes it 6, counting the child, Tom said with certainty. You can't make me live anywhere near her parents' house, and I'm definitely not staying with Mom after you and Dad move out. Me neither, Tigger added. You're not leaving me behind. Good morning, Tommy, a cheerful voice with an African accent called, waking the patient from his light dozing. How are you this Sunday morning? Oh, hi, Ben, I'm fine, but you should be worried about everyone else, Tommy said sleepily. I'm just a little bored, no visitors today. Sharon's working all day, and Helen has an essay to finish by tomorrow. I think they prefer me when I'm asleep. I thought this was your day off. Overtime, Tommy. I figured I'd work while it's calm. Calm? I didn't think hospitals were ever calm. Well, Sunday mornings are quiet for me, no doctor's rounds, not many nurses around, and just a few staff from support departments. This is as calm as it gets here. Tommy got out of bed and sat down in a chair. Well, Ben, if you have half an hour, you could help me catch up on what's happened over the last 32 years. How old are you, by the way? 29. I was born in 1984. And how long have you been in England? Ben laughed softly. I was born here. Then I moved away and came back. I missed the cold winters. Really? Just kidding. My parents were students from the Gambia here in the late 70s, early 80s. They had me and my brother while they were here. Then we all moved back home when I was 10. We welcomed 2 sisters into our family a long time ago. Really? In the jungle? No, we lived in a quiet place called Gunjar near the coast. It was too quiet for me. I moved back here about 9 years ago, and my brother joined me 3 years ago. What do you want to know? Everything. To start, when I left this world, Notts County was in the 1st Division. Oh boy, I need to grab my phone for this. Ben stood up. Phone? Back in my day, phones were just for talking. You'll be surprised once you see what Google can do, Ben said with a grin at the door. What kind of music did you enjoy back then? Mostly older bands like the Beatles, Kinks, Rolling Stones, and some pop music like Gary Glitter. I have some earphones. You can listen to my music, but I don't have any Gary Glitter. Do you have a cassette player? I never could get one, but I had a few tapes for an old music center my friend gave me since his turntable was broken. Oh man, my phone will show you so much. Just wait until you hear some rap music. Emma and Richard were in the kitchen. Emma peeled potatoes and Richard made coffee. Emma was softly humming a song while she worked. Richard noticed. She seemed happy. He thought about how she didn't know what he did when she was not around. Are you going to your mum's in the morning as usual? He asked as he poured hot water into the mugs. Yes, dear, she said. Around mid-morning, after I prepare your meals, I'll put them in the fridge with labels for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. You can heat them up in the microwave when you get home. There's plenty of bread, sliced meat, and cheese for your sandwiches, and I bought more fruit yesterday. You'll have enough, Rich. I'm sure I'll manage, Em, Richard replied, setting the steaming mug next to her. Don't worry. Sharon was wrapping up a conversation with a young couple she had shown around a model home. They were looking at options for one of the smaller houses that were not yet built. Sadly, the small houses available were too expensive for them, even though they seemed like a nice couple with a child at home. The bell in the showroom office, located in the garage of one of the bigger houses on the estate, tinkled, signaling that another visitor had arrived. Sharon looked up and saw her daughter, Helen. They exchanged nods, with Helen waiting at the door for Sharon to finish. The couple left with smiles, holding their brochures and promising to return once they made their decision. Sharon smiled, understanding the couple's situation. She wished them well and hoped to see them again. Tough job, huh, Mum? Helen asked after the office was empty, watching the couple drive away in their old car. Yes, it's tough, Sharon agreed. Only 12 out of 36 houses had sold so far, even though they had expected to sell 30. The second phase of building had started last week, even though they hadn't reached their goal. The developer was thinking about slowing the work, or possibly delaying the third phase. Sharon wasn't too worried about it. The job was just extra money. She felt the houses were overpriced and didn't feel responsible. "Cup of tea?" she asked Helen. "Are you having one?" "Oh, yes," Sharon laughed. "I need one." "Go on, then." Sharon got the kettle and mugs ready, wondering why Helen was there. Helen had mentioned she needed to write an essay the night before. "How's the essay going?" Sharon asked. "So-so," Helen replied. "I can't focus right now." "Want to talk about it?" "Yes, Mom." Helen paused. "This Tommy thing is bothering me." "What about you?" "What do you mean?" Sharon knew the answer. "I like Tommy a lot, and I know you do too, right?" "Yes, I do," Sharon replied softly. "It's unfortunate about his new wife, isn't it?" "Yes, it is." "Richard, I told you not to call me on this phone anymore." Jennifer was upset. "You have your own life to focus on without bothering me. JJ has been asking where you are all week. I think she thinks I'm hiding something." "Well, we were together," Richard said. "Richard, it's over now. What did you want to discuss before I hang up?" "Just wondering if you heard anything about Bob. His best friend can ask about your husband's well-being, can he?" Richard's voice was hopeful. "I guess so," Jen said reluctantly. "But the answer is nothing. They won't tell me anything until the detectives question this person who I think is Bob tomorrow. I asked them yesterday, but they still won't share anything. Something feels off. Apparently, this person in the hospital has another family, and they're trying to reach them." "Are you saying he was involved with someone else like we were?" Richard pondered while Jennifer stayed quiet. "Or maybe it's more complicated. If he has a whole new family," Jennifer said, her voice shaking. "Or he could be making up a story about another family to avoid contact." "So why is he in the hospital?" "They won't tell me that either." "You don't think he's in trouble, do you?" "No," Jennifer replied firmly, pushing the thought away. "No, he was a quiet man who rarely talked about his problems. He wouldn't let them take control of his life." Richard paused for a moment. "What a mess, Jen." "Yes, it is." Chapter 6. Meeting Mom. It was early Monday morning when Ralph and Mike Haroldson visited the flat where Ann Barlow lived. She was already dressed, with her coat on and the door open, waiting for them. They chatted during the 45-minute drive, working their way through the busy traffic between Nottingham and Chesterfield. Their talk mostly focused on what Tommy was like as a teenager and as a young man. The Haroldsons learned that Tommy was an only child who was a bit of a troublemaker in school. His main support was Sally Chapman, his childhood friend. She encouraged him to concentrate on his studies and helped him get his engineering job. They married just a year before he went missing. Anne found it hard to believe he would have any reason to disappear. Sally learned she was expecting a baby just a week after Tommy didn't come back from a quick trip to the store. "Did he walk to the store?" Mike asked from the driver's seat, looking at Anne beside him. "Yes, they couldn't afford a car. As newlyweds, they struggled with their little apartment," Anne said with a soft laugh. "Young love, they thought they had to marry early, even with little money." "What happened to Sally after Tommy didn't return?" Ralph asked from the back seat. Anne turned slightly to look at him. "She moved to Australia in 1986 and remarried, taking my grandson Brett with her. Sally didn't have much family here, so they hadn't visited since, not even for a vacation." "How did you feel about that, Anne?" Mike asked. "I was very sad to see little Brett go. Alan felt the same way. He was all the family we had left. Brett was only 3 and we had grown very fond of him. He was such a happy, sweet boy. I took care of him while Sally worked. She found it hard to pay the rent on her own, and we couldn't help much since Alan had to retire early due to health problems. Soon after, she moved back in with her dad and stepmom, with whom she didn't get along." She sat up straight and stretched her legs. "Sally was great with Brett, though," she said, remembering. "She worked hard and treasured the time she spent with him, making sure he was well cared for. She bought used clothes for him and fixed them herself. Sally was very good at sewing. She felt like the daughter we never had. Then she met a kind man named George who accepted her and Brett. Not many men would do that. He was quite a bit older and had a house he received from his parents. Eventually, they decided to live together." "What made her go to Australia?" Mike asked. "It was her family in Nottingham that played a big role in her choice." Sally had known Tommy for as long as she could remember. Everywhere she looked in town reminded her of him, the park, the movie theater, even the buses and streets she traveled. At first, she wasn't ready to marry George. She thought that Tommy might come back at any moment. She shared that she would have gone back to him without hesitation, no matter what his reasons were for leaving. But over time, she stopped looking for him. For Brett's sake, she realized she needed a fresh start away from Nottingham. So when George got a job offer in Melbourne, they made the move in 1985. That must have been tough for you, with Tommy as your only child and Brett being your only grandchild, Mike noted. It was indeed, but I get regular cards and letters from them, especially on birthdays and Christmas. Sally always sends me a sweet card for Mother's Day. She is such a lovely person. I have lots of photos from her. She patted the bag on her lap. I've brought a bunch of them to show Tommy when we arrive. Rachel was busy that Monday morning. She had many tasks to complete, and Herman was really on her case. As soon as she entered, before even getting her first cup of coffee, the inspector stopped her to ask about some recent thefts she had not made much headway on. Rachel told him that the 2 laptops found in the recovered car did not belong to the Cottons. She mentioned she had reached out to the station to see if a tech expert could check the laptops and their files. They promised to get back to her. If nothing was resolved in a few days, she would have to fill out forms to get the computers herself. Additionally, Herman found out that the John Doe case at the Royal Hospital was becoming more interesting. Some officers from the Nottingham Division were heading to the hospital to talk with Tommy Barlow, and they had let Herman know in advance. Now he wanted regular updates from Rachel. She sensed that when this case moved forward, she would likely take a back seat, with Herman trying to take the lead. He liked being in the spotlight. Her first task, she thought, was to get back to the hospital and find a way into the meeting between Tommy and the Nottingham officers. She left her untouched coffee to cool down. She arrived first, which was a relief. Tommy was alone and grinned widely when he saw her. Rachel saw that the lights in Tommy's room were almost back to normal. "How are your eyes this morning, Tommy?" she asked cheerfully after they exchanged greetings. "Almost perfect," he chuckled. "If my eyes didn't feel so heavy and scratchy and didn't look like a panda's, I'd be completely okay." "You look really good, Tommy. When I first saw you, you looked unwell, with everything connected to those machines." "Like a movie monster, right?" She smiled at him. "Pretty much. At that time, the doctors were not very hopeful about your recovery. I'm glad to see they were wrong about your strength." "Yeah, Doc Harding was in earlier, checking on me as usual. He's not the softest doctor, but Ben says he's good. That works for me. He says he's happy with how I'm doing, which is a bit cheeky since he could be my older brother." Rachel laughed. "You sound like you're getting better if you can joke about it." "Yeah, this place is a laugh a minute. It still hurts a bit when I laugh, though, and you're not helping. The doctor says I can go home soon, and in a week or so, I can start jogging again." "Do you remember going out for a jog last Sunday?" "I don't really remember jogging at all. Not since school. Maybe just a quick kick around with a plastic ball during breaks at work. I've never really done any serious jogging as far as I know. The doctor says I've got strong muscles like an athlete." Rachel smiled. "Those are his words, not mine. He thinks I must run about 5 miles every day. In fact, he believes that last Sunday from my home in Buxton, I might have run 25 to 30 miles if I had gone straight. I may have wandered around for hours without water, and that injury on my arm was bleeding. They could tell from the stains on my clothes. No wonder I felt out of it." "So you've come to terms with being this Robert Morris?" "Yeah, I guess so. I don't really have a choice," Tommy said thoughtfully. "But it's a little strange to feel like 2 different people, isn't it? Ben also told me that when he started his shift, I was mumbling in German." "German?" "Yeah, Ben said there was a German doctor here last year who could hardly speak English, and I sounded like him." "Well, Tommy, you are certainly making my job interesting." "Well, Rach," he said with a smile, "you're more than just an investigator. Along with Ben, Helen, and Sharon, you're about the only friends I have." "Are you saying something nice about me, Tommy Barlow?" "Well, you are very nice, Rach. But not really, no. It's hard to believe that just a few days ago, I was a carefree 23-year-old with so much to look forward to, and now I feel like I could be someone's father. Honestly, it seems silly to think about relationships when I've already been through two families that seem to have forgotten me. It makes me wonder about my skills in keeping connections. Well, you can't be worse than some people we meet. Maybe not, but I still feel like a young man with my whole future ahead of me. Yet, it feels like I'm quickly nearing the end of my work life, and I don't really know what I've accomplished or where I'm going. I feel like that character, Adam Adamant, from a TV show I saw years ago. Who's he? He was a man from the past brought back to life when he didn't want to be. He found everything had changed around him. There are so many new things. If I can't figure them out fast, how will I go back to work and support myself? I can see how that would be really confusing. Tell me about it, he sighed. To help me catch up, Ben lent me his smartphone. He showed it to her. An iPhone, she laughed. What's he been teaching you? Watching funny videos, I bet. What? Oh, maybe it's too soon for that, she giggled. You really are new to this, aren't you? You should know I'm innocent until proven otherwise, detective. Only then can it be fair. Assembly shop, Amos Joseph here, Amos shouted into the phone, trying to be heard over the loud noise from the assembly line in his open office. Hello, Mr. Joseph, a soft voice said from the other end. I'm J.J. Morris, Bob Morris's daughter. I think we last met at the company picnic in the summer. Yes, I remember, Amos replied, leaning over his desk to close the door and block out some of the noise. He smiled, recalling the young girl who was so lively, leading the boys in a game during that picnic. How can I help you, J.J.? First, I wanted to thank you for taking care of Dad when he got hurt. It was no trouble. Really, it meant a lot to us, Mr. Joseph. Dad hasn't wanted to discuss what happened. He probably doesn't want to worry us. Oh, I see, Amos said, feeling a bit out of his comfort zone with the conversation. She was Bob's daughter, after all, and she had the right to know. She wasn't like those lawyers chasing money, nor was Bob. At least, he didn't think so. What harm could it do the company to comfort the young girl? It was quite a cut, JJ, but not the usual trouble your dad faces at work, he began. It seems the team before him had accidentally pinched one of the cables, and your dad tried to fix it. He didn't have the right tool, so he used an adjustable wrench and slipped. Normally, he would have been fine, but the last crew put the part on wrong and it had a sharp edge. That's how your dad hurt his arm. It was serious, I must admit. But the nurse did a great job treating him. It looked really neat. I bet his arm is still a bit sore, though. You tell your dad to stay home until he feels better, okay, JJ? I hear you, mister. Joseph, replied the young voice. Oh, did you drop him off at home? Yes, that's right. Your dad was going to go back to work for the last hour of the shift. I stopped that right away. I wasn't going to let him walk home like he usually does. I dropped him off at the back entrance of your house. He said he would go in quietly so he wouldn't wake your mum so early. Amos thought for a moment. By the way, how did you kids enjoy weekend camp? Bob talked about it all week. He would have loved to go with you if he hadn't already taken his holiday. Yeah, we had a great time at camp. The weather was nice too, Mr. Joseph. I have to go now. I am almost at the school entrance. Bye, Mr. Joseph. Bye, JJ. Amos hung up the phone. Nice girl, that JJ. Really nice, he thought. Bob was proud of her. Mom? Oh, my goodness. Mom, it's really you. Tommy, my son. Ann Barlow's eyes filled with tears as she reached out for her grown child. They embraced, her silver hair resting against his chest, her arms around him. Careful, Mom. He winced. My ribs still hurt a bit. I'm so sorry, son, she said, pulling back. That was careless of me. Come here. Tommy hugged her tighter. I'm just teasing, Mom. I'm getting better. You joker. She tapped him playfully on the shoulder. You haven't changed one bit, Tommy. I feel like I've changed a lot, Mom, he said quietly. Just looking in the mirror shows how much time has passed. She pulled back from their embrace and looked at him. It was hard to see him clearly. Her eyes were filled with tears. Tommy was in old pajamas that were too big for him, and his right arm was wrapped in a thick bandage. She could feel more bandaging around his middle, probably for hurt ribs. His face looked bad, too. "Your face, Tommy," she said, slipping back into her motherly role, which came naturally even after all these years. "What happened to you?" Tommy laughed a little. "You might want to ask Detective Rachel. She knows more than I do. Honestly, I woke up here a few days ago and everything before that is a blur. The last thing I remember is going to the store for milk over 30 years ago." "You poor boy," Anne said gently, brushing her fingers against his bruised cheek, while Tommy turned his focus to Rachel. Rachel cleared her throat. While Anne and Tommy were reconnecting, Rachel introduced herself to Chief Inspector Haroldson, who said to call him Mike. He introduced his father, Ralph, who was one of the detectives from the original case and also a family friend of Mrs. Barlow. Mike wanted to make it clear that this was still Rachel's case. He was there to assist and help solve an old mystery. Rachel felt relieved. Mike was much more pleasant compared to her previous colleague. She noticed he was quite attractive and seemed very kind. Ralph smiled as he shook her hand. With the attention on her, Rachel smiled back and began to speak. She didn't need her notes to start, but she had them ready just in case. "Mrs. Barlow, Tommy was found in an open area just off a trail in Birkinshaw Woods, which is a lovely spot a few miles northwest of Chesterfield, at 12:43 a.m. on October 27th. He was discovered by Miss Helen Bister, who was jogging in the woods. At first, she wasn't sure what she saw, but she came closer and saw Tommy lying unconscious. She worried he might not be alive." Anne gasped at this. Tommy held her hand and guided her to a chair next to him. Rachel paused, giving them a moment to gather themselves. Ben stood in the doorway, always alert to what was happening around him. "Excuse me, I made some coffee and have paper cups if anyone wants some," he offered. "You are in the right job, son," Mike smiled. "You're a lifesaver." This brought some lightness back to the room. Ben went to get the coffee, and Mike went with him to grab cups, sugar, and milk. "This is the nurse's supply, just for our use," Ben admitted. "We chip in a little when things get low. We really need good coffee for the night shift, and the stuff from the machine just isn't good enough." "Your secret is safe with me," Mike said, handing Ben a $5 bill for the coffee fund. "You should join us. It will save you from hearing everything again later if you can spare the time." "Thanks, officer. I really appreciate that," Ben replied with a grin. "I've already arranged for my nursing duties." "I'm Mike, by the way," he introduced himself. "This is my dad, Ralph, who has been working on this case for quite some time, and Tommy's mom is Anne." "Thanks, Mike," Ben said. Chapter 7. Injured Party. Once they all had their coffees, Rachel spoke again. Ben quickly went to get a cup of tea for Anne, who preferred it. The nurses' coffee group also liked tea, and one of the nurses had a nice cup and saucer in the cupboard that Ben borrowed. Helen called for an ambulance that arrived at 12:59, and Tommy got to the Royal Hospital by 13:23, Rachel began. He came in wearing a running vest, shorts, socks, and trainers, with a simple watch and a plain wedding ring. He didn't have any tattoos or special marks. Tommy had several injuries. The most serious was that he was in shock from severe dehydration and had lost a lot of blood, both outside and inside his body. He had a wound on his arm that had previously needed 12 stitches. The wound had reopened, causing more bleeding while he was running. "Sorry for talking about you like you aren't here, Tommy," Rachel added. "That's fine, Rachel. It feels like this is happening to someone else anyway," Tommy said. Rachel smiled and looked at her audience again, her gaze on Anne, who was focused and holding Tommy's hand. They had to clean the cut and put in 12 more stitches, and the doctor said there might be some scarring. Another problem was a blow to the head that looked like it might have come from a kick. The hospital did scans and drained some fluid that was pressing on his brain. They had to put in 15 stitches for that head wound. He also had 2 broken ribs, and one of them punctured a lung, so he needed medical care for that. Rachel took a moment to go through her notes. "They used a tube for the lung," Ben added with a friendly smile. "It's a pretty simple procedure." "Thank you, Ben," Rachel said with a warm smile. Due to dehydration and the bright sun that morning, Tommy's eyes were affected. She looked up at Ben, raising her eyebrows for help. "Photokeratitis from too much UV light," Ben explained with a smile. "Tommy's vision is almost normal again. He might just see a few fuzzy spots for a little while." Tommy nodded from his chair, grinning. Tommy also experienced some trouble from the people who attacked him. That's when the uniformed officers called my department, and I took over the case. Usually in situations like this, we think the person involved might have a record, so we took Tommy's fingerprints and checked them against known offenders, but found no matches. Wow, Tommy chuckled. I thought I might owe a library fine. From his jogging clothes, which were standard sportswear, we knew he liked to jog, especially since his shoes were high quality and well-used. I reached out to all the running clubs in Chesterfield, but no one remembered seeing him in the usual jogging spots. We also checked local sports shops where they sold those shoes, but came up empty. This led us to think that Tommy might not be from around here or possibly ordered the shoes online, which seemed unlikely. We guessed he was just passing through, maybe a truck driver, who got attacked, robbed of his phone and wallet, and then left behind. The new stitches on his arm caused some questions. They looked like they were done by a professional based on what was left behind. We checked the Royal and other emergency hospitals as far as Derby, Nottingham, Mansfield, Sheffield, and Doncaster, but found nothing. This further supported our idea that he was just passing through, not a local. I had officers check the usual truck stops for trucks that hadn't moved for a day or two, but nothing unusual showed up. Next, we had a police artist create a drawing of Tommy, using pictures from the first officer on the scene who captured them on his phone. He got there just before the paramedics and thought this was a serious situation from an unprovoked attack. We shared the images with local and regional media, and eventually someone reached out, although they weren't family. She glanced around the room. Everyone was focused on her documentary. Mike smiled and nodded for her to go on. A Mrs. Marcia Knight called the county police control room and they contacted me. This was on Wednesday, October 30th. I met with her at 4:09 that afternoon. I will give you a copy of all the contacts, Mike, for your files if you want to follow up. Mrs. Knight told me that her daughter had faced a scary situation on Sunday morning between about 11 and 11:15 with two men who clearly meant to do something harmful. Knight felt sure that her daughter was in a very risky situation. I waited with her for a few minutes until Hannah Knight came home from school. Hannah shared what she knew and described the two men in detail. They had been standing by a tree while she ran past. They grabbed her and pulled her away from the main path into a small area. Suddenly, Tommy appeared, and the men let go of Hannah to talk to him. In the mix of things, Hannah managed to run away with only minor marks from the encounter. She didn't think to tell her mother about it because she worried her mom would limit her freedom, and she wanted to keep running to lose weight for a Christmas party she was invited to. "So Tommy's a real hero, right?" Anne said with a smile. "Saving that girl." "You could say that," Rachel replied, smiling back. "Now come on, look at the situation," Tommy insisted. "I must have been jogging for a while and got a bit confused without taking any water. I just stumbled into this problem." I probably wasn't fully aware of what was happening before I was suddenly pushed and fell on the ground for no clear reason. "I really can't remember much. Just some flashing lights and feeling dizzy, along with the pain in my head and ribs," Tommy added. "Well, Hannah thinks very highly of what you did," Rachel smiled. "To her and her mom, you are a true hero." "That's too much, man," Ben laughed. "If you keep praising Tommy like that, we might have to deal with him being around longer than we want." They all laughed together. From Hannah's great descriptions, we managed to find one suspect right away, but he isn't confessing to anything. We've charged him, and he's still in custody. We believe his partner heard about the arrest and left the country. They are foreign workers here illegally. I won't mention any names, but I'll send the details to you later, Mike. "Thanks, Rachel," Mike smiled. "Now, back to when Tommy first woke up. Before that, we just called him John Doe. Because of his injuries and shock, the doctors decided to keep him under watch until his fluids and breathing were normal. They stopped the sedation on Wednesday night, but Tommy didn't wake up until Thursday at around 12:05. That's when he told us who he was, but he couldn't remember anything, not just what happened last Sunday, but nothing from the last 32 years. Anne stood up and hugged her son, tears in her eyes. Everyone looked away to give them privacy. Ben excused himself to check the nurse's station and ran into Sharon, who was standing just outside Tommy's room, quietly listening to Rachel's update. "You should go in, Sharon," Ben suggested. You and Helen have been part of this from the start. Sharon tried to keep her voice low. His family is involved now, Ben, she whispered. It felt good to help Tommy when he was on his own, but he's not alone anymore. I think Helen and I should step back. I got curious when Rachel began sharing the story. Ben nodded. You might think Tommy doesn't need you anymore, but I see it differently. You should at least say goodbye and share your contact details. You can't deny it, Sharon. You and Helen are his friends now. I will talk to him, Ben, but not right now, Sharon replied as she walked toward the door with Ben following her. Back in Tommy's room, Rachel continued with her update, mindful of her next appointment. I contacted CID in Nottingham, but since Tommy's case was old, it wasn't in the system. The addresses he gave for his wife and parents didn't lead anywhere. I was about to ask someone to check the voter lists when Mike called me back. He knew Anne personally since she used to babysit for him, and he was familiar with the original missing persons case. This made me realize there was a case of 2 missing people, the same person, separated by 32 years. Where had he been all this time? We made another appeal yesterday morning, which didn't get any leads. However, the day before that, Buxton Nick received a call from Mrs. Jennifer Morris about her husband, Robert Mark Morris, who had been missing since Sunday, wearing only his running clothes. Mrs. Morris went to the station in Buxton yesterday morning with a photo of her missing husband, and the officer there sent the photo to me. Rachel pointed to a picture printed out that Tommy had on his bedside table. Tommy shared it with everyone. The photo was taken at a wedding reception about 3 or 4 years ago, showing Robert Morris, his wife Jennifer, and their 3 children. The children are all teenagers now. Mrs. Morris told the officer at Buxton that she hadn't reported her husband missing earlier because they had a disagreement on Sunday, and Mr. Morris left to calm down. She thought he would come back that day, or, if he was still upset, in a day or 2 at most. It was only when she checked their account on Thursday and noticed he hadn't taken out any money that she started to worry. She looked at home and found his wallet and credit cards still in his drawer. So, Mike said, are we sure Robert Morris and Tommy Barlow are the same person? I've already talked about this with Tommy. He says this photo looks like him, but he doesn't remember these people at all. Morris is coming here, and I've set up a meeting with her at her home in Buxton later this morning. Can you tell me what happened in that interview, Rachel? Mike asked. Whenever you have a moment. I'm glad we found Tommy and can close the old missing persons case, but I'm curious about what happened to him 30 years ago. That might have taken place in my area. Are you okay with me looking into that, Tommy? Rachel asked. Of course, I'm just as interested and want to understand things better. I'd like to meet Mrs. Morris after you speak with her, but I can't face those 3 kids now. I can only imagine how hard it must be for them to have a parent who doesn't remember them. It must be really tough for adults dealing with that pain, but it's so much worse for children, Mike replied. I agree with you, Mike, Tommy said. Let Rachel talk to Mrs. Morris first. If she believes that Mrs. Morris remembers you as her husband, then you should meet her to see if that helps you remember anything. Yeah, Dr. Phoebe thinks the same, Tommy said. Turning to his mother, he asked, By the way, what happened to my Sally in the end? She went through a lot after you were gone, Tommy. Sally found out she was expecting a baby and was alone all in the same week. She had to go live with her father and stepmother. She had a son named Brett. She opened a photo album and showed him pictures from when he was a baby to when he grew up. There were also some loose photos of a tall young man enjoying sailing. Tommy felt tears welling up. He looks like a nice boy who writes to us all the time. I brought his letters for you to read. Here's his wonderful wife, Katie, and my great-grandkids, Owen and Nellie. The pictures captured bright days at the beach, sunny skies, and fun on boats. Where do they live, Mom? They're in Melbourne, Australia, Tommy. Sally and Brett moved there in 1989. Sally has remarried twice, the last time just 2 years ago. Brett has grown up around the harbor, the ocean, and the sun. I need to leave now. I'm late for my meeting in Buxton, Rachel said. She left with Mike following her into the empty hallway. Great job, Rachel, he said. You've made good progress in this case with so little information. I'd like to know more about that disagreement Mr. and Mrs. Morris had that was serious enough for her to not notice her husband was gone for nearly a week. Me too, Rachel said with a smile. It's been on my mind. Yeah, me as well, Mike agreed. In a quiet voice, he asked, "You've been talking to Tommy for 3 days, right?" Rachel nodded. He continued, "What are your thoughts, Rachel? Is Tommy for real or not? Yes, I think he really can't remember what happened last weekend. I also believe he has forgotten a lot from the last 32 years, but I wonder why he changed his name. I can't help it, Mike, but I like him. He seems honest, but I really want to know what happened to him in 1982. I feel the same way. What does your boss think about this case?" "Well, he wants me to focus on a series of break-ins and told me to stop working on this case as soon as I get back from Buxton." "That's too bad. Want me to talk to him?" He smiled. "Not yet," she smiled back. Well, let's just say he's different from you. If you asked him to give me more time on this case, he'd probably agree to your face, but then make it harder for me to work on it. And if it looks more interesting, he'd take it away from me right away." "Okay, soft approach it is," Mike nodded, smiling. "I'll look into it on my side and update you. What do you have on Robert Mark Morris so far?" Rachel opened her notepad and flipped through a few pages. "He was born in Nottingham on November 30th, 1958. Jennifer told the officer she never knew his parents. They both died when he was very young." Mike wrote it down and shook her hand before she left. He watched her walk down the hallway. "Why do you look so down, Tom?" Susanna asked. "You haven't said much during lunch." "Just worried, Suze." "About your dad?" "Yeah. And if he leaves Mum, what will happen to the money he promised us? Without a good deposit, we definitely can't buy a flat, and it might even be hard to pay rent. Are you worried about moving in with my mum and dad?" "Honestly, yes." "Me too," she said. "Mum can be tough sometimes. I think that all the time. Let's hope your mum and dad stay together." "I don't think so. You and I wouldn't handle it either. I wouldn't be able to deal with what your father went through a couple of Christmases ago. No, he would need to be very patient. Maybe we should hope for a miracle, Tom." Tommy was very tired by the time he received his medications, and then lunch was served. Ben encouraged everyone to leave the ward, suggesting they might enjoy lunch elsewhere and come back refreshed at 3 in the afternoon. Tommy really needed some rest with the lights dimmed. Anne asked her friends to let her return after lunch. Mike managed to get his office to cover for him, so he could stay in Chesterfield for the rest of the day. Tommy felt too excited to eat much during lunch. He nibbled at his meal while reading some old letters from Brett to his grandparents, written when Tommy's newly discovered son was 5 or 6 years old. The letters mentioned Tommy's father and his faraway grandmother, bringing tears to his eyes. Still, he felt Brett's love for his new country, nature, the sea, and sailing. Tommy flipped between reading the letters and looking at photos. Throughout the pictures were moments with his beautiful ex-wife, Sally, who still looked lovely as a grandmother and seemed to have happily remarried after a tough second marriage. As visiting hours approached, Tommy looked forward to his mom's return when he heard a light knock at his slightly open door. "Come in," he said. A short, slightly plump blonde woman with noticeable makeup for a Monday peeked around the door. "Mr. Barlow?" "Yes?" "Hi, I'm Alicia Knight, Hannah's mom. I've really wanted to meet you and thank you for helping my daughter." "I spoke with Detective Webster last week and she told me a bit about you," Alicia said. "She thought it wasn't a good idea for me to visit while you were unwell, but I really wanted to. Hope that's okay." "That's perfectly fine, Mrs. Knight. Please call me Alicia." Tommy smiled. "All right, Alicia, but only if you call me Tommy." Alicia blushed a little, smiling nervously, showing a couple of dimples in her cheeks. "Look, Alicia, I can't talk long today since my mom and 2 detectives will be back from lunch any minute, but I'd like to chat more later if that works for you." "That sounds great. Should I come back tonight?" "Sure. I shouldn't have any visitors, so it might be quiet around here otherwise. How about 7? "You've got a date," Alicia said with a bright smile, then added, "See you later," as she turned and left just as his mother and the detectives returned. Rachel Webster noticed that this seemed like a very nice neighborhood, with leafy streets in a private area probably built in the 1930s. It felt better than where she lived, a small Victorian house she bought with her then-boyfriend before they split. This street had semi-detached houses, many with added rooms over the garages and dormer windows on some roofs. Neatly cut hedges surrounded tidy lawns covered in bright red and brown leaves that had fallen from the trees lining the wide sidewalks. Rachel parked her car in front of one of the houses and checked the house number against her notes. It was correct. She stepped out and locked her car. Looking around, she felt that the area was very pleasant. The Morris house was similar to the others nearby. It hadn't been expanded over the garage like some of the other houses on the street, but it looked like it had new windows, and everything appeared neat. "Good morning, Mrs. Jennifer Morris?" Rachel asked the short, well-dressed blonde woman who opened the door. "I'm Detective Constable Rachel Webster from the Chesterfield Police. I believe you are expecting me this morning?" "Yes. Please come in, Detective. The local station told me you would arrive at, well, right on time." Rachel noticed that the woman seemed nervous, which was understandable for someone not used to seeing the police. In this neighborhood, that was common. The inside of the house was just as tidy as the outside, perhaps a bit too formal for Rachel's liking, making it feel like it belonged to someone older than Mrs. Morris appeared to be. Rachel knew from her research that Mrs. Morris was 15 years younger than her husband. Rachel was led through the spacious hallway and living room into a large conservatory that seemed to take up most of the back of the house. There was an area of decking between the conservatory and the garden, which Rachel could see through the large windows. The garden was big and had lawns, shrubs, and flower beds filled with colorful winter pansies. There was also a shed on one side and a well-kept vegetable patch behind it. Next to the shed was a large greenhouse, with bright peppers visible inside and misty windows suggesting some form of heat. The semi-detached houses were about 150 yards away, making much of the garden private. Mrs. Morris offered Rachel tea or coffee, and Rachel happily chose tea. Jennifer Morris went to the kitchen. Rachel took this chance to explore the conservatory. There was nice bamboo furniture with groups of sofas and chairs arranged around a coffee table, perfect for gatherings. A Welsh dresser at the back displayed decorative plates and photo frames. The conservatory had large windows with automatic blinds currently opened, allowing the soft winter sunlight to brighten the room and show off the garden. She noticed a large wall-mounted TV screen in the living room as she walked through. A very cozy home for a family of 5. The dresser held several photos, including some of Tommy with Jennifer. Rachel noticed that Tommy seemed to be the one who took the most pictures. There were many photos of their 3 children, 2 tall, charming boys with big smiles, and a girl who seemed to be hiding behind her long hair in her latest pictures, different from her earlier ones. This reminded Rachel of her own tough teenage years. Jennifer walked in with a tray of tea and placed it on the coffee table. Rachel moved to sit on one of the couches next to Jennifer, and they both settled down. There were sweet biscuits on the tray, but Rachel decided to pass on them. Jennifer was a bit anxious, and after pouring the tea, she kept picking up the cup and saucer, setting them down without drinking much. She didn't touch the biscuits either. "How is my husband?" Jennifer asked softly as they sat down. "He was hurt and needed help after an incident with 2 people, Rachel said, noticing Jennifer's surprised reaction. The woman covered her mouth, her eyes wide. Rachel felt this was a sincere response. "He's improving quickly, though," Rachel said gently. "The medical staff are happy with how fast he's recovering. I talked to Dr. Harding this morning, and he believes your husband should be able to come home within a day or 2. "Oh, that's such a relief," Jennifer replied. "I was worried when the local station told me they thought they had found Bob in the hospital. I feared the worst." "The officer mentioned that you had a disagreement, which made you think your husband might have left, is that right?" "Yes, that's correct," Jennifer admitted a bit nervously. "It was just a small problem, a typical argument between married couples, nothing serious. I thought he would return right after his jog. When he didn't come back by Sunday lunchtime, I was more irritated than worried, thinking he might just be taking a short break. At the time, I didn't really think much of it. I figured he would come back eventually since it all seemed quite trivial." "Do you mind sharing what the disagreement was about?" Rachel asked, curious. Without hesitation, Mrs. Morris replied, "If you really want to know, it was several things. First, his jogging was taking up too much of his time, making it hard for our family life. Second, I recently started working part-time, hoping to help with our household expenses so Bob could get back to his regular job. I was ready to work longer hours to help out. He was just being stubborn about it all. Rachel smiled, hoping Mrs. Morris would feel a bit more at ease. What time did he leave the house on Sunday morning, Mrs. Morris? Please call me Jennifer, Detective. We had a disagreement as soon as he got back from his night shift, and I think he left around 5:30. I had just woken up and didn't check the time. You can call me Rachel, Jennifer. What was he wearing when he left? I'm not sure since it was still dark. We only exchanged a few quick words before he left. He often goes for a long run after finishing his 6-day work week. He doesn't mind the cold, so he probably wore his shorts and a shirt. Since it was still dark at that time, I'm sure he wore one of his bright vests for safety. He wasn't wearing the bright vest when he was found, Jennifer, so it seems he left it behind during his run. It was unusually warm that October morning. Maybe. He has different styles of vests, so he could have taken one off without me noticing it was gone. You said you're from the Chesterfield Police. Did Bob run all the way there? Not exactly. He was found about 3 miles west of Chesterfield in a place called Holy Moorside. It looks like he was running for about 6 hours, likely without taking a break. I mentioned that jogging was becoming a bit too much for him, didn't I? Jennifer said, shaking her head. The officer at Buxton Station mentioned Bob having some trouble with his memory. Yes, he's struggling to remember recent events. They wouldn't tell me much at the station. What are his injuries, and when can I visit him? I think you can see him any time. His injuries are serious. He has a head injury, broken ribs, a punctured lung, and bruises on his hands, body, and face. Thankfully, he only has a couple of broken ribs, one of which punctured a lung. The main concern was that he lost a lot of blood and was very dehydrated. He also had a cut on his arm that opened up during his run. Oh no, Jennifer gasped. And he doesn't remember what happened to him? No, he can't recall anything clear. He has dreams that show he knew something happened, involving the trees and bright sunlight. His eyes were sensitive to the bright light, and he had just had the bandages removed yesterday, so he needed softer lighting for the next few days. Is his sight going to be okay? Should be fine after a few days, the doctor says. That's a relief, Jennifer said. Have you found out what happened to him? Yes, we have put together a timeline of events for your husband, Rachel said. A young girl, another jogger, came forward to say that she had just been taken by a couple of foreign workers. Your husband stepped in to help her, which gave her the chance to escape. While that was happening, he faced some trouble for his actions. The girl was able to give us good descriptions of the 2 men, and we have arrested one of them. He isn't admitting anything right now, but we are working on it. We think we know who the second man is, but he has left for Eastern Europe, so Interpol is trying to find him. We hope your husband can remember enough later to support what the girl said. So, Bob is quite the hero then? Jennifer said, putting her teacup down again. I guess he is, even though he is very modest about it. He is a modest man, Jennifer said softly to herself. By the way, the wound on his arm came from an accident at work on Saturday night. I talked to his foreman. He had to fix something that was put together incorrectly, and when he was using his tool, it slipped and made a deep cut. A private nurse at the plant helped him before his shift ended. That's why we couldn't find an official record of that injury. We checked all the nearby emergency rooms, but nothing showed up. It really shows a gap in the system. The hospital said that because the stitches came undone and the wound was open for a long time, he might have a scar. He could even need a skin graft. Also, doctor. Harding mentioned that a psychiatrist is coming to see him today to look into any help he might need for his memory loss. So, he is in Chesterfield Hospital, right? Yes, at the Royal on Chesterfield Road. I'll go see him alone tonight to see how he is before bringing the kids. I'll ask my friend Emma to stay with them. Yes, that sounds like a good idea. Here are the visiting hours, the ward he is in, and I've written down the hospital address for your GPS, Rachel said, tearing out a page from her notebook. After finishing her tea, Rachel had one more important thing to say. His memory loss isn't just about the events before what happened. She paused, unsure how to share this with Mrs. Morris. It isn't easy to say that someone's loved one might not remember them. You should be ready for the fact that your husband might not recognize you or your children at first. How far back has he lost his recent memory? 32 years. He can't remember anything after the middle of October 1981. What? Jennifer exclaimed. He still sees himself as a 23-year-old man. What do you know about his family, his parents? Only what he told us. That they passed away when he was young, Jennifer replied, still trying to understand her husband's mental state. He doesn't have any family left, only us. Do you have his birth certificate and passport? Both should be in our personal documents, she said. I'll go get them. She got up and walked to the sitting room. Rachel heard her open a drawer. When and where did you get married? Rachel asked from behind the door. February 13th, 1994, at St. John's here in Buxton, Jennifer answered. Why do you ask? He was married once before, but that marriage ended in 1989. Ended? Jennifer sounded worried as she returned with a folder in her hand. What do you mean by that? The marriage ended when he was declared missing for 7 years. His wife moved to Australia and has remarried a couple of times since then. Well, he never told me he was married before. Jennifer bit her lip. Does that mean we are not legally married since he didn't mention his previous marriage on his certificate? It should still be legal. He wasn't married when he married you. Oh no. What a situation. He has a son he has never met in Australia, and he also has a few grandchildren, according to his mother. Mother? Bob's mother is still alive? Yes, she visited him this morning. The doctor thinks he may have lost his memory twice, and this last injury has brought back some older memories while removing the more recent ones. He's not who you think he is. So who does Bob think he is? He thinks he is Tommy Barlow. Ben walked around the wards with the medication trolley between visiting hours, finding Tommy in a somewhat restless mood. I don't know, Ben. I must be getting used to the idea that I am an older man and more curious about things. I wouldn't have looked twice at older women like Alicia Knight or Sharon, who could be my mother, and now I find myself wanting to know more about them. I even chatted with Rachel, and she's a police detective. I spoke with Alicia earlier and thought how interesting she was in her own way. Nothing wrong with that, Tommy. It shows you are recovering. I've seen how Sharon and Helen look at you. They think you are a nice and charming man. Alicia probably admires you for helping her daughter. Really? Tommy asked, unsure. Anyway, I think I still love my Sally. She was my childhood sweetheart, and I can remember her clearly. I really can't picture myself loving anyone else right now. Just keep in mind, you have plenty of choices if things don't work out with Jennifer. Oh, wow. I completely forgot about her, he said. It seems like I'm in a tough spot no matter where I look, right? That's how it goes for all single guys out there, Tommy. Look at me. I have Veronica keeping me grounded and we don't even live together. She wants me to move in with her and her child. I get along well with young Francis, but that would leave my brother alone, and I don't think he could handle that. I need to think of a solution. Starting fresh seems really hard. Especially since Veronica has you right where she wants you, huh? Yeah, you're not wrong. Chapter 9. Jen Gets Jen. After Tommy's visitors had all left, with his mother being the last and most hesitant, he had another visitor. This time it was Helen Bister. Hey, Tommy, how did your time with your mom go? Hi, Helen, I really missed you and your mom today. Tommy's face turned bright red as he looked up from a photo album. I stopped by this afternoon after turning in my paper at college. The staff here think my mom and I are part of the team. She laughed. But you still had a whole bunch of family with you, so I thought I'd give you some space. Of course. You're welcome to come see me anytime. You and Sharon are among my favorite people right now. Your mom was working this weekend, right? Yes, she worked from dawn to dusk on Saturday and Sunday almost. With Christmas coming up, they can't miss any chances for business. It makes Sunday lunch difficult. I have to leave things cooking and hope it's still good when she gets home. Today she's getting laundry and cleaning done, and then she'll cook dinner. I thought she might take a break today and come over, but I didn't see her. I didn't either, Tommy said. When you're feeling better, you should come over for a meal, Helen invited. Mom is amazing in the kitchen. She often cooks in showcase homes, too. She says that filling the place with the smell of baking helps sell the houses faster. We could invite your mom as well. Tommy laughed, holding his sides. Yeah, that sounds fun, but how do I know you three won't team up on me? Of course we will, Helen laughed, So did you always live at home? Oh, no! I left when I was 18, went off to college, and then moved in with a boyfriend. We rented a flat for a while. Helen paused, gathering her thoughts. Didn't work out? Tommy asked softly. No, it didn't, Helen replied with a smile. She felt comfortable talking to him. It was a big mistake on my part. He was not supportive and always made me feel less confident. Nothing I did seemed good enough. So you ended it? No, she laughed suddenly. He left me. He was hiding things from me the whole time, and I had no idea. One day I came home and he had taken everything, emptied the bank account, and vanished. What a letdown. Definitely, Helen agreed. Mom was having a hard time then. Dad started a new family, so they sold the house and split the money. I took on part of the mortgage to help Mom find a new place. Then I moved in with her. And now you're back at college? Yes, working on a master's in marketing. I think if I can't find a good partner, I better focus on my career. Oh, you'll find someone special. Don't give up. You are beautiful and smart. If the last few days mean anything, you are a great catch. If only I were 30 years younger. Helen smiled back at him and winked. Then she noticed the album. Are these your family photos? Yeah, come take a look. This is me when I was a kid. Oh, you look so adorable with all that blonde hair. Yeah, I wonder where it all went in the last 30 years, he said with a rueful grin, running his hand through his gray stubble and wincing slightly when his hand brushed his stitches. Is that your mom and dad? Helen pointed to an old picture of a couple with a young child by the seaside. Tommy nodded. Yeah, he passed away 3 years ago from a stroke. Oh, I'm sorry, Tommy, Helen said, squeezing his hand gently. I thought the man I saw with your mom was your dad. No, he's a retired detective. He was involved in my missing person case years ago, I think, Tommy said thoughtfully. Actually, I'm not sure. He might have looked into it later. Anyway, after I was missing, he became a family friend. Mom used to babysit for his son, the other detective. I think he's a chief in the Nottingham police force now. I think Rachel was impressed by him. Really? Helen raised her eyebrows. The Ice Maiden finally softening up, huh? She's not so bad, you know. Tommy laughed. And Mike, the other detective, was just really friendly, which made their visit nice. Well, she really likes you, Helen said with a knowing smile. You know. What, Rachel? No. He shook his head. I'm old and out of shape, well past my best. I look like something no one would want to adopt. Rachel's young and full of energy. Don't sell yourself short, Tommy. You should know you're quite charming, Helen laughed. And my mom thinks so too. Charming? Tommy asked. What does that mean? Good looking, she giggled. Why not? You are in good shape. Most guys your age have let themselves go. You're funny, polite, and a real hero too. What's not to like? Well, when you say it that way, Tommy said as he blew on his fingernails and rubbed them on his shirt, I guess I have to agree. They both laughed. Tommy's last visitor that afternoon was Rachel, who had come back from Buxton after interviewing his wife. Tommy wasn't sure if he wanted to hear what she had to say. Plus, Rachel didn't seem very happy. Hi, Rachel, good to see you again. So what's the news? Am I happily married or not? Do you really want the truth, Tommy? Oh, so I'm still Tommy, am I? Are you having doubts, remembering things? Only in my dreams, Rachel. Most of them I can't understand. They're more like bad dreams flashing lights, me rolling around, bumping into things and hurting myself. Oh, and a graveyard with tombstones at a gray dawn. Where did that come from? Nothing clear that I can hold on to. Maybe they're just bits from old movies. Who knows what's happening in my mind? It will come to you. Maybe you're trying too hard, Tommy. Yeah, maybe. We talked about this earlier, trying to figure out what I could remember. Mike and Ralph were very interested in how Helen found me. Oh, by the way, I'm meeting Marcia Knight tonight. Hopefully I can find out what her daughter said about what happened when I showed up. You must have shown up like a hero, Rachel laughed. Marcia probably thinks you're amazing, while Hannah likely doesn't understand how serious it was. It seems to have not affected her much. Rachel shook her head. The confidence of youth. Hannah told me she still goes out running, like nothing happened. If it were me, I wouldn't go out again unless I was with a group. Or with me, Tommy smiled. Or with you, Rachel laughed. Once your ribs heal properly, that is. When did the doctor say you could start running again? In a couple of weeks, hopefully, assuming I get my jogging clothes back from your team. Ben told me the officers who were here that night took them for evidence. We took them for testing, looking for any fibers from the clothes of your attackers. At that time, Tommy, we were worried that it might lead to a big investigation, and we needed every clue to find out who hurt you. Thankfully, you were tougher than we thought, and Hannah provided the rest of the details for us. We have one person in custody, and the other thinks he's escaped for now, but we'll find him sooner or later. Anyway, Rachel, I see you have skillfully changed the subject away from my marriage. I did, didn't I? Rachel replied softly, sitting down on the edge of the bed. As a police officer, I have learned to evaluate what people are saying, and your wife seems to be hiding something. Great. The doctor says I can go home in a couple of days. It feels like it won't be easy living with my new wife. If she's not honest with you, what will she say to me? I can't go to my mom's. She lives in a retirement community with small apartments. A psychologist who visited me today suggested that going home might help me a lot. Being around familiar things and people could help me remember. That sounds good, Tommy. It does, but now I'm not sure if I really want those memories back. I'm content with what I have, to be honest. Did my wife say why it took her nearly a week to report me missing? Only that when you got home from work on Sunday morning, you were upset with her and continued an argument from earlier. Does that seem likely? Would I really stay upset all night and wake her up to keep arguing? Knowing you, no, Rachel replied. But the person you were might have acted differently. She didn't explain much about the argument besides it being a small issue that got blown out of context. Jennifer mentioned your work hours and how she was increasing her part-time job. It seems small. If you hadn't gotten hurt, she said she thought you would have come back that same day, probably feeling a bit shy. Not 25 miles out and back, I wouldn't, he chuckled. No, she smiled. I guess you wouldn't. Anyway, when you didn't return, she thought you just needed some space and was okay with waiting. Oh, I also spoke to your supervisor, Amos Joseph. Yeah? What did he say about me? He said you were his best worker. With your engineering skills, you were great at solving problems. That's how you got the cut on your arm. Instead of throwing away a bad assembly made by another group, you tried to fix it. Sadly, a piece was put in the wrong place, which led to the sharp edge hurting you. So that's how I got that injury. I was wondering about that. I thought it might have been a kitchen accident. He laughed, then added more seriously. The doctor said I might need a couple more procedures for the scar. I've seen it during dressing changes. It doesn't look nice. Yes, I can imagine, Rachel said sympathetically. It was open for a long time, rubbing against your shirt while you worked, and then left exposed in that hot, dirty environment. At least you made it out okay. Monday evening visiting hours were busy and a bit hectic for Ben's unique patient. Marcia Knight arrived 10 minutes early and easily convinced the nurses to let her through, bringing a big bag of grapes with her. Tommy's room was dimly lit. After an exciting day, he lay in bed, propped up by pillows, and his eyes were getting heavy as he felt tired. "Hello, honey," she said cheerfully as she entered. "It's very cozy and nice in here. I should have brought some candles to go with these grapes." Tommy opened one eye wide awake when he recognized Marcia from earlier that day. "Oh, hi, Marcia. Sorry, I was just resting my eyes for a bit. Come in and chat with me." "Long day for you, huh?" she asked kindly, placing the grapes on his table. "With your family here." "Yeah," he smiled. "It's been a long day, but a really good one. It was wonderful to see my mom again." "That's nice, sweetie. You haven't seen her for a while, have you?" Marcia sat down on one side of the bed, and Tommy moved his legs over to make some room. "You could say that," Tommy said with a smile. "She thinks it's been a long time. For me, it's only felt like a couple of weeks." Moms always think that, don't they? They love seeing their children, especially as they get older and feel less dependent. Their kids have their own lives. "You're right," Tommy nodded. Marcia smiled at him. "I see you have a lot of pictures here. Want to go through them with me? I love looking at old photos." Even with the overhead lights off, there was enough soft light from the doorway, and a reading lamp by the bed to see the pictures clearly. "Yeah, why not?" Tommy replied happily. "Well, make some room and I'll sit next to you," she said with a playful smile. "It'll be easier to see them. I promise to be respectful and you'll always see my hands." Marcia raised her hands with a cheeky grin. "Why not?" Tommy laughed, shifting to his right to give her space while she kept her feet on the blanket. "These ones," he said, opening the album, "are of me as a child." "Bob, honey, what?" came a loud interruption from the doorway. Jennifer Morris stood there, looking polished like Marcia, but with a more serious expression. Her hands rested firmly on her hips, holding a bunch of flowers. Tommy looked up from the album and smiled at her. "You must be Jennifer?" When she softened her expression and nodded, Tommy continued. "Rachel mentioned she saw you earlier, and I thought you might come by in the next few days." "Come on in, please. Are those flowers for me?" Jennifer nodded. "You shouldn't have," Tommy said. "They are lovely, very bright, and mostly yellow. Good choice. Are you going to introduce me to your, friend? She looks quite relaxed. I'm surprised she isn't resting with all those pillows behind her." "Yeah, they gave me a lot of pillows. If I add a couple more, I could just sleep here," Tommy said, hesitating on how to describe the woman he didn't know to another stranger. Yes, well," Tommy began. "Jennifer, this lovely young woman is Marcia Knight. She is the mother of the girl who was part of an incident in the woods on Sunday." When he said this, Jennifer gasped and walked over to Marcia by the hospital bed, opening her arms. "Oh, Marcia, that must have been so hard for you and your daughter," she said, tears forming in her eyes. "I would be so worried just thinking about what could happen." Tommy continued, speaking to Marcia. "And this wonderful woman is Jennifer Morris, my, wife." Marcia started to rise from the bed as Jennifer hugged her, tears streaming down as all the emotions she'd held back for days came rushing out. "We have a daughter, JJ, who is just 16, Jennifer cried. "She thinks she knows everything and can take care of herself. JJ has no idea. She goes camping in the countryside, even last weekend in the cold and rain. I worry about her all the time, and now she barely talks to me." "I understand, Jen. Hannah is the same way. She loves being liked and doesn't see the risks. I can't say anything without her rolling her eyes and saying, 'Oh, Mom,' all the time," Marcia added, tears still falling and her body shaking with her feelings. "She could have been in real trouble, and she's my only child." "I know, dear," Jennifer replied, looking at her new friend. "We need to support each other." She reached for tissues from Tommy's side table and handed them to Marcia. Soon they were both blotting their eyes and sharing stories about their daughters, including stories about Jennifer's boys. Then they both noticed Tommy, who was quietly watching them, which led to a discussion about men, and they both shook their heads in understanding. "Look at his poor face, though," Marcia said. In the soft light, the cuts and bruises were clear, showing the bandages on his fingers and the large dressing on his arm sticking out from his rolled-up pajama sleeves. "He got like that protecting my daughter." "You've got one of the good guys there, Jennifer." "Yes, he is," Jennifer agreed. "He always has been. That's why I care about him so much." Marcia hugged Jennifer one more time. "I'm going now and leaving you two to get reacquainted. I'll come by tomorrow afternoon, Tommy, for a chat." She turned back to Jennifer. "Hope to see you again tomorrow." "You can count on it, Marcia. Maybe we could have some tea together after visiting tomorrow?" Jennifer suggested. "Before I go home to get the kids, I want to bring them for evening visiting hours." "I'd love that." Marcia smiled, wiping away her tears, but still looking lovely and vulnerable. "You take good care of him. You hear me?" Chapter 10. M for Mother. "You poor thing. This must be tough." Jennifer sat in the chair, gently patting the top of the bed. "It is," Tommy replied. "I really don't know how to handle everything happening right now. Like with you, I'm not sure how to act. It feels like I'm meeting you for the first time while you see me as someone you've known nearly every day for 20 years. We've been married for almost 20 years but have known each other for about 22, Jennifer answered, her voice slightly shaky. "I'm sorry," Tommy said. "This must be hard for you." Jennifer placed her hand on his. It's not impossible, dear, just a bit awkward. But we will get through this. What do you remember? The only person I know is my mum, and she is now a frail old lady, not the strong mother who was always there, Tommy said. This situation won't get better quickly. I didn't even know your mother was alive until Rachel told me this morning. You told me both your parents were gone. I can't remember why I would have said that. Maybe I wanted to leave the past behind. I'm not sure. You have all your memories of me, so for you to touch me feels normal. For me, you are a stranger, and it feels strange. I'm sorry for touching you. I just want to offer comfort. I haven't seen you in a week, but Rachel explained how your mind is right now, and I'm unsure how to handle this. It's awkward. Tommy took a breath. Why don't you come and sit on the bed next to me? You can see my family through some old photos, okay? He held out his hand. Without thinking, she took it. Great idea, she laughed. Maybe I could bring a couple of our albums tomorrow. Good idea, Jen, Tommy replied. Please call me Jen. My mother is the only one who called me Jennifer. She kicked off her shoes, climbed onto the bed, and sat comfortably next to him. I guess calling you Bob sounds strange. What does your mom call you? Tommy. I've always been called Tommy. He smiled, recalling happy memories. I had a great Uncle Tom when I was younger, and we were clearly defined in the family. He was Tom, and I was Tommy. Even after he was gone, my name stayed with me as I grew up and moved away. Tommy is a nice name. I got used to it. But to you, Jen, I am Bob, so please keep calling me Bob. It might help bring back some old memories, according to Phoebe, my therapist. Oh, Phoebe, is it? She said with a smile. And what about this Marcia from earlier? You seem a lot more charming than the Bob I used to know. Should I be worried, sweetheart? Not at all, Jen, he said quickly. I'm just friendly. I don't know anyone well enough to mean more by it. Like us, we need to take our time getting to know each other and hope that I can remember more as we go. Okay, Bob, it is then. How do you feel about your mom meeting her new daughter-in-law and the grandkids? I think she'd be really happy, Jen, he smiled. I'd love to meet my kids too, but I worry about not recognizing them and how that might feel for them. Don't worry, Jennifer said, resting her hand on his. They will understand that you aren't the same right now. I'll talk to them about your situation before they see you. They'll realize you need their support, just like how you were there for them when they needed help. You're pretty wise, Jen, he laughed. For someone so young. Oh, first I'm a stranger, now I'm young? Okay, this time I'm just joking, he chuckled. I think I'm allowed to be a little playful, right? Yes, I suppose so. You can be playful with me, I want you to. She laughed, playfully bumping shoulders with him. Although you are a lot bolder than before. Check out these photos my mom brought. I think there's one at the beginning showing how bold I used to be. So, Aunt Emma, do you know what Mom's doing tonight? Not sure, JJ. Aunt Emma smiled. She wasn't really JJ's aunt, just Jennifer's best friend, but she had acted like an aunt to the Morris kids since they were little. She called me yesterday when I was at my mom's and asked if I could come over while she was out for a few hours. She's probably going out to have some fun while Dad is away, JJ said. That's not kind, dear, Emma said gently, setting down the plate she had been drying. Your dad's on a training course, right? JJ scoffed. Who goes on a training course for over a week without checking in? I don't believe what Mom says at all. Oh, JJ, do you think something is going on between your mom and Dad? Definitely. Dad's gone without his phone. He's not at work, and I can't believe he's on a course. I called Dad's boss, and he didn't know about any course. He thinks Dad is sick. Really? Emma sounded surprised. Jen didn't mention anything. I thought this course was just from Monday to Friday. I haven't been around much on weekends since my mom has been unwell. I wonder what's really happening. Mom's not being honest, JJ replied. JJ, Emma said loudly, you can't say that about your mom. Anyway, your dad would never leave your mom, just like your mom wouldn't give up on your dad. He's a great person. Yeah, he is. I agree. But her? I'm not sure anymore. Aunt Em, do you think Dad is getting a bit too old for Mom? No, dear, of course not. Your dad may be older, but he is healthy. Much healthier than your Uncle Richard, who is 15 years younger. Yeah, but Dad is so quiet and calm. Mom seems to have him under her control. I thought that incident at the school sports event would have changed things between them. Well, I don't know where you heard that, Emma began. It was all over the school, Aunt Em. I felt embarrassed. I still do. That was just a rumor, spread by some girls from that school trip to Yorkshire. I heard they liked your dad. He was one of the fittest parents on that trip. Why would your mom look for someone else when she already has a great partner? Emma laughed. I remember Tom saying that all the girls in his class, who had ignored him before, suddenly wanted to talk to him after that, hoping to be near your dad. They're just being silly, JJ said. My mom is making some bad choices and putting her marriage at risk. Look, JJ, I heard some about the rumors. Your mom told me that things were exaggerated. It was just a friendly greeting with her PTA colleagues, like everyone else gave hugs and cheek kisses. No, Aunt Em, I saw the pictures. They looked real. Maybe they were changed or edited, Emma suggested, a bit worried. You know, putting faces on other people's bodies. I've seen your art. It's really good. This wasn't edited, Aunt Em. It looked too real. Even Tigger heard about it at school. I found out just yesterday. My old friends won't let me forget it. Oh, your friends know about this too? Yeah. All the girls acted like they were better than me, spreading it around as if I'm just like my mom. And the boys, the good ones, want nothing to do with me. The worst ones kept bothering me for a few days, as if I cared about boys like my mother, as if I had to tell them to stop. Well, boys can be like that. I can't believe I'm talking to you about this. Emma felt a bit awkward. She had known JJ since she was very young. The only girl in the family, JJ was small and delicate compared to her tall, strong brothers. She had played and wrestled with them as equals when they were growing up. Now she stood in her mom's kitchen, her chin lifted and her dark, curly hair nearly hiding her face. It was clear she missed her dad. Emma could see that JJ might cry, and her heart went out to her. She opened her arms, and JJ stepped into her embrace. There, Emma said, gently rubbing her back. I'm sure that whatever argument is happening between your mom and dad, they will work it out. Your mom is probably with your dad right now. They both care about each other, and you kids too much to let anything keep them apart for long. JJ began to cry softly in Emma's arms. Emma glanced towards the door, listening for Tigger. The sounds from the TV showed that he was absorbed in his show, not paying attention to what was happening in the kitchen. She imagined him saying, "Not my problem," which made her smile. Tom had left right after Emma had served dinner to visit his girlfriend. Emma often wondered what parents taught their children about relationships and how careful they needed to be. She knew that JJ, who was growing into a young woman, often spent time with active friends, many of whom were full of life. Emma thought that if JJ put a little more effort into her looks and dressed up every now and then, the boys would notice how beautiful she was. Are you feeling better now? Emma asked gently after JJ had stopped shaking. JJ looked up at her. I guess so. I'm sorry for getting upset. She seemed lost and overwhelmed. Let's sit in the conservatory, JJ, Emma suggested. It'll be more relaxing there, and we can see if Tigger or Tom come back, and when your mom gets home. Emma led JJ through the kitchen to the conservatory. She had always admired Jen's conservatory. It was long and bright, warmed by the sun during the day, and comfortable at night thanks to the heating. The girls wouldn't have to go through the living room so they could be quiet, at least until Tigger wanted a snack because that boy was always hungry. They sat next to each other on a cozy sofa, Emma keeping a comforting arm around JJ's shoulders. We're all worried about your dad, Emma said plainly. He's been quiet for a while and has been keeping to himself. I know your Uncle Rich is really concerned about his friend. He tries to hide it, but Richard calls here often, hoping to see your dad and get him to open up. Uncle Richard doesn't want me to know, but he's not very good at hiding it. Yes, Uncle Richard is around a lot, JJ said thoughtfully. Maybe that's why Dad seems to avoid him. When you don't want to talk about your problems, it feels like people are always pushing you. Mom often asks me about things. It can be a bit overwhelming. They both laughed at the shared feeling. With my friends at school not talking to me, I've only had Dad to confide in, and now he's not there for me. Well, sweetheart, if you feel uncomfortable talking to your mom or dad about anything, You can always come to me. I promise our conversations will stay between us, Emma reassured her. I know, Aunt Em, JJ replied with a smile. What's on your mind that you want to discuss? Emma asked. Right now? Yes, while you have things to share and it's just us without anyone interrupting, Emma encouraged. This is a good time, especially with your mom out and no distractions. Emma looked into JJ's eyes. Let's start with what you think about friendships. Aunt Emma, JJ said with wide eyes. You're old enough to talk about it, Emma replied. Your mom has expressed some worries about you at camp. How do you feel about understanding friendships? JJ shifted nervously. Well, I know the basics. There was a brief silence. Are you talking about what you've learned or what you've seen? Emma asked gently. Aunt Em, JJ said again, a bit embarrassed. JJ, if I share some of my own experiences, maybe that would help you feel more comfortable sharing yours, Emma suggested. Like what experiences? For example, your Uncle Richard and I have been hoping to have a baby for a while and have been trying again recently, Emma shared softly. But it's been hard, and it might not happen for us. Why not? You still have time, don't you? JJ asked. No, it's not about age. I've had tests and everything is fine. The doctors say I'm healthy, Emma said, biting her lip. But Rich doesn't want to get tested. He thinks that just because he feels fine, everything is okay. So, JJ giggled, Uncle Richard doesn't realize he could have problems? Emma laughed too. No, he doesn't want to face that idea. Poor Aunt Emma, JJ teased with a smile. Maybe you should learn from Mom. I can't do that, Emma replied. Everyone has their own path. Well, that's the person I want to be. All right, JJ, back to our chat. What do you think? Are we talking about theories or feelings? Emma asked. Aunt Em, JJ said, her cheeks warming. Then JJ sat quietly for a few moments, understanding that she had crossed a line she could never have approached with her mother, especially not now, and even more so with her father. She chose to respond honestly, without the shyness she would have felt with her friends or her mother. Just theory, she said softly. Okay, so how far along are you with this theory? Emma asked, seeing JJ's eyes widen in surprise. What about relationships and connections? Nothing, JJ said. I'm just not that kind of girl. Besides, I don't think the boys really notice me. Oh, they do. Trust me. Or if they haven't yet, they will soon, believe me. No, I'm too ordinary. JJ, you are pretty, smart, and quick-witted. I bet your legs are in great shape from all that hiking you do, even in the winter, though I haven't seen your legs since you were about 12. I can tell you've grown since we've spent time together. Aunt Em, JJ confessed, I've never been close to a boy like that. Never? No, and I'm avoiding it because I don't want to feel let down. Disappointment is part of it, my dear. Accept that, and you might find that boys can be surprisingly nice to have around. I'll believe you, Aunt Em, but boys can be annoying. My brothers, well, I know I'm supposed to care for them, but they can be so mean to me. Being challenging, at least to keep the boys on their toes, is what we girls are good at, JJ. Keep them guessing, and they'll soon learn. They just need a little guidance. First, like with any untamed creature, you need to engage them. If you do it right, they won't even realize they've become interested until they want to be near you. Interested? JJ's eyes widened. Like being trapped? No, not exactly. Hooked is a better term. It means they want to be with you and pay attention. Believe me, it's for their own good. Now, is there a boy you know or someone you're starting to know that you think it would be nice to learn more about? Well, there is this boy, Brick Alexander. Brick? Emma interrupted. Is he a bit simple-minded? No, his name is old-fashioned. He's been called Brick for a long time, like how we called George Tigger, JJ explained. What's he like then? Emma asked. This boy you like? He's tall and strong, just like the stories say, Emma joked, enjoying their chat. Emma had known JJ for a long time, and she was becoming more cheerful every minute as she grew up. This talk was starting a new and exciting friendship with this special girl. Emma, JJ said, stretching out the name in a playful way. JJ, you're old enough now, and we're close enough as friends that you can drop the auntie part. Just call me Em or Emma from now on. Okay, Emma, JJ smiled. Brick is, well, he is quite strong, but he's also very smart, top of his class, and should go to college next year on a scholarship. He's captain of the soccer team and also plays tennis and golf. The only thing he doesn't do is camping. Well then, you need to meet him somewhere nice where you can wear something a bit nicer than this, Emma said, pointing to JJ's loose sweater. You should start wearing dresses and doing your hair nicely. JJ, it's time to show off your pretty face. Sure, Emma, JJ agreed, feeling a bit nervous. Emma stood up and pulled JJ along with her. Come on, let's check your room and see what you have in your closet. That brick fellow won't know what's coming.